Okay, we're starting the live stream here, and welcome to the 21st Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And once again, we have Mayran Kesh on the line, and he'll be not sure if he'll be joined with the Knowledge Seekers. Is there anyone that's going to be joining you there today, Mr. Kesh?
We are all scattered all over the world at the moment, so till we come back together in September.
Okay,
It's
well,
summer holidays.
we do have Marco on the same Skype call, and we might get joined by Armin if he's awake at this time and place and so on. So we'll see how it goes.
But don't forget, yeah.
Go ahead.
He's in your time. He's in Canada, in the
Yeah,
States now.
but
So.
he might be sleeping at odd times right now, I figured. Who knows? Okay, so let's get going, I guess. And we've got some questions from people, and I'm sure Mr. Kesh has things he'd like to talk about. And we do know that the Spaceship Institute is basically shut down for August, although I hear there's still experiments that are going on and things happening in the lab in spite of people not being there. And maybe we'll hear a little bit about that, although it's a little bit mysterious at the same time. And so anyway, let's turn it over to Mr. Kesh at the Spaceship Institute and see what's going on there. Hello there, Mr. Kesh.
Hi, good morning, good evening, and good day to wherever you are. Unfortunately, this time you only got me. You got to listen to 2-3 hours of boring times. But this next 4 weeks or so, while the knowledge seekers are away, unless they want to add to the knowledge according to what they've learned over the past few months, as I was talking before we started recording, is that we try to catch up with whatever we've done in past few months that we've been going over too fast, or other people want to add to our knowledge what they've learned. In a way, next 4 weeks we teach and we learn, and we literally bring everything up to scratch between all directions. The research here doesn't stop because it's a live situation. We can't just shut it down and go away and come back. The last day before Armin leaves, he loaded last GANS reactor. So now we have 3 sets of reactors running, 3 star formation next to each other, and one is GANS state, one is in the plasma state, and one is with the plasma and gases which we feed on regular basis every day. So 3 cores are running. There is an interesting development, is that even with the what we call the unit which we have sealed, we see in the past week how the magnetic gravitational field of the system is interacting with outside without any motors running, because just before we break up, we decided that it's an enclosed system and the systems can heat up the motors if the motor's running, so we shut the motors down. And now we see a natural interaction between plasma, dynamic plasma, and the outside environment with the 2 detectors inside and outside. And what I have noticed, maybe I'm wrong, but in the next few weeks we'll try to analyze it if it's correct, is that by turning on the gas units, a lot of fields are getting drawn towards that unit. How correct it is, I cannot say till we analyze it more. So I have started moving the detectors, outside detector, in different locations along the line between the 3 cores, 3 setting. We expect, if we are correct, that was our assumption when we set it up, that the GANs material, because they're already in a plasma state, they will create a condition of plasma we went through so hard to create over past few months. And if what we see is correct, then this opens up a new view in respect to operation of the GANS reactors and the plasma reactors. For those who do not recall, I go over the whole thing in a brief way. At the beginning of the setup, we went through producing nano layers. We converted the nano layers to GANs, and we used the GANs for loading the last reactors. These reactors are very small. They're all made by John. They're all made of porcelain, and they're ceramic, sorry. They're all ceramic, and 2 are coated internally with nano layers, and 2 have a central pin nano layer. So in either case, we have to study their behavior after we open up. The other sets are made totally in a different way, where when we coated the nano layers sheets, then we glue them back on the cores, and or we pin them in the center, nano coated pin in the center, and then we use gas layering to create plasma. So now we have 2 systems which are made of half a sphere and full spheres, but using plasma condition of through gases, and we are using in the new system plasma in a gas form, and I think it's about 30-40%, 25-30% in mixture with water, because when we don't introduce water into the gas state, this seems, and they tend to stick together. And so we use the water like a lubricant. In the future we will add different composition to it to see if we can do. We cannot create vacuum to put gas in it, because everything gets sucked out into the system. The difference between the 3 system is that now we have a plasma in a matter state creating interaction. Then with the others is the plasma which is no matter in it. It's in a state of total plasma. The interaction between the GANs and coated nano layers will manifest itself in the coming days and coming weeks as we do more research, because with a GANs state reactors, what Arman did was that we filled in 4 cores in combination with 4 different matters. So in the 2 sets which we have, all the 2 sets with the gases is a plasma, only in one state of plasma. In the GANS state, now we have a very peculiar situation where we have a fixed nano-coated magnetic layer, which is on the outer core of two of the cores, internally in the outer part of the sphere. And then we have ganses which are themselves plasmatic inside rotating. So we have already created a double magnetic field, which the one with a coated layer, according to what I can see, is a replica of the internal inner core of the planet. What this means is that this core, which has got a coated layers with GANs and liquid inside it, will behave exactly like the Caroline core of the Earth. Because now you have a coated nanolayer, because it's in the book I've written, it's in the paper, I think it's published, or will be published, that the inner core of the Earth contains not only matters, but it contains plasma and GANs. So we have more or less replicated exact condition of the inner core of the Earth in these two reactors. So we got to see how each of the two reactors behave. The beauty with this is we had an incident here that a GANS changed condition as a mixture. So we use that as a center core. One core carries CO2, one carries CH3, and one core carries copper oxide GANS material. So we literally have created 3 planet different in respect to the center, which got a mixture of all 3 together with it. So it'll be interesting to measure the fields behind and around and between the center core and each of these cores, to see if the fields are higher or lower in respect to CO2 core, in respect to CH3 core, or in respect to the copper oxide core. And this is the first time we achieved this mixed combination material. It'll give us a very good indication of planetary system, a galaxial system, if you want to study it in a further detail. This on its own will take years to unravel and understand, because we can, as we increase the speed, I think we kept the speed around about 900 to 1000 revolution. The GANS reactors has opened up a totally new dimension into the research and development. It's very interesting. I was watching the data yesterday. Data is very solid and is constant. And I marked a floor wherever the detectors sit, and it's a very strange number reading. A very, very strange number reading. I think it'll take us a long time to decipher the data and what it is in 3 dimensions. But my belief is, I could be 100% wrong, that the GANS reactors will behave and be a more powerful systems. The reason for it is that they're mono material, and you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of the little plasmas next to each other. So this allows you to create, according to the GANS material inside, in an easier way, the material we need outside. But this I will show in our research in the future. The plasma reactors, which is encaged, now I've switched off everything. There is no motor running. The motor, so we are trying to see the exact operation of interaction between the internal and external. There is no electric current flowing internally that it can affect. The only thing which is in there is the detector. The process will be, now that we are not in there that much to mix up the plasmas, will show its effect. But at the moment, except that for motors of the GANs, there are no motors running. So all the interactions internally in the cage and outside is totally plasmatic. And it's very interesting to see how much you lose and how much you gain, and what will happen in the next stage with the whole process. If there's any question in respect to this, we cover in detail and then we go to other subjects.
So the mixture of the GANs is what you have in the center, as in it's part of each individual other reactor that's sitting at 120 degrees, and yet the reactors at 120 degrees are still part of the center. So they're all magnetically or maggravely connected. Is that right, Mr. Keshe?
That's what we see. What happened, we don't know how this material turned up to be in this state, because it was the blue color material which we were using, and Arman washed it, and suddenly it changed color. Overnight it changed color. And we looked at it. There are two factors. My opinion has been that the material has been mixed deliberately or separately. But on the other hand, the material, due to change of environment of the, what do you call it, of the GANs, could have changed its property and it's changed color. But when you mix the blue, the red and the white together, you get the exact copy of it. So you can go to a lighter or a darker material, but this is very coincidental in one day. But in so many ways, we have to be very vigilant in respect not to be, what do you call it, narrow-minded. So I keep an open mind with it, but to what I see at this moment is that the darker material has manifested itself. It's a combination of the three, because I mixed the three near enough. I consulted with our other scientists who we work in the background with, and we were of the opinion that this is what has been done. Materials have been mixed. So we assume, yes, each reactor has one, and the center is a combination of the three. But we'll see if you are correct or not. You got to realize, this is what I said to our knowledge seekers, even though we are in a very secure position, locked up, locked down situation that nobody comes in and out, we are still open to sabotage in different ways and forms. So we have to keep an open eye how this happened overnight, because ominous. This copper oxide has been with us from day one, since we started producing material, nearly 4 months now, and we have never seen it changing. And there are two occasions of change. One is upstairs in the board, what do you call it, the teaching room on the board, which is changing the copper into very much like a brain structure protein, creamish. We have a black line on it because somehow people moved the system which was not supposed to be moved, and they created disturbance. Since that time we have a black line on one side of it. But everything else in the lab till that day was more or less the same color. Till even Arman, when washed it and put it on the board, was the same color. Now we have more of the material because we shut down one of the original system because it stopped working for whatever reason. And we have more of the same material to use. When the knowledge seekers come back, we have a copper oxide core in the boardroom, in the teaching room upstairs. And we have a core which is only CO2, and we have copper oxide, and we have one core internally, which is copper oxide. So one of the first things we do when we come back is to set one of us here upstairs and one of us downstairs, or some of us downstairs, and we try to use what we said, three-dimensional internal control, that somebody upstairs will decide to, we've done this test before, don't forget, with the plasma reactors, so you all know about it. We sat in front of the core, the knowledge seeker sat in front of the core, and they could give whatever they want to the reactor. We saw the changes in the data, and they took what they wanted from the core, and what core was prepared to give, we took the data. Now, next, when we come back, one of the first thing is, now that the GANS reactors are running for such a long time, we're going to do what we call remote three-dimensional control, which we try to see if by sitting here upstairs, one person, not two or three, because then they interfere with the information, if we are correct, and from something like 50 meters, 100 meters away, from here to the lab, they can change the magnetic gravitational field of the system, which is instantaneous. This is zero communication. We set this initially up, and we talked about it a few months ago. Now that the cores are running, thanks to a lot of hard work with John and Armin, just before we leave, this has been made possible to be tested. So someone still sits in the room here, and we'll try to see if we can communicate between the two systems remote, through thoughts and through interaction. Fairly possible. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that the system is wrong. It means that we have not tuned directly into the wavelength or to the magnetic gravitational field of the two systems. This core upstairs and the core downstairs are of exactly the same material, same package, same wires. So there should be a connection. And then we've got to see if we affect the inner core, center core, or just the core which is CO2, what you call copper oxide in it. There is a lot of misunderstanding has been around the past 5 or 6 months, is that we have to build systems to be able to be in a position to do a direct research. Now, a lot of systems are made, so interaction between everything we've done over past 6 months will allow us to show new dimensions in the world of science. I had people here, as you know, we went to a shutdown Thursday, Friday, for specific reasons which we might disclose in the future. Scientists of the highest caliber have seen the technology independently, and they were shocked. I spoke with one yesterday, still shocked in what's on the table. The whole process is that for the first time we have made science simple and practical and understanding, and there is no mystery behind what is happening in the world of creation and in the world of in the cosmic or astrophysics. This is the major point which we have achieved. Doesn't matter what happens with the foundation in the future, whatever happens in the world of science in the future. We have shown plasmas can be made in a very easy way, plasmas can be contained in a very easy way, plasma's speed can be changed as we are doing in the lab in a very easy way. And we have shown that energy is not the main focal point of the whole structure of the foundation. As now we've shown plasmas are and can be maintained and can be created at literally no cost. We started with motors, now we shut the motors down. And we are running at the moment with 8 reactors, exactly the replica of the universal systems. None of the reactors have motors, and we run a test for days now here with the knowledge seekers, where by adding a small amount of hydrogen, we see the change in the strength of the plasma. And this is it says, Marek, can you raise the issue of the GAN's influence on the planet, on the plants done a few years ago, so we can build on it and go forward? I don't know, you can keep on calling it whatever you call almost, this we release what we can when we can, and plants will be done when it's ready. Marek has been pushing to see things which nobody else sees. All his problem when he was here was the same, except what is not confidential and governmental things. Give us everything, we have to see everything. Marek, in time you will receive everything. Let us go on the plants, then you'll have that as well. I was looking at the pictures of this this week by accident. I came across it, and I was speaking to the guy who did the research for us in past 2 years. We're trying to organize for him to go to Africa to do it in a larger scale. So you will have that all, Marek, don't worry, in time you'll have it. On the other hand, the property of the GANs has to be evaluated independently, because we have no data on evaluation of the GANs materials independently from outside. We are talking to a number of organizations to see if it can be done. Up to now, a lot of research and evaluation has been done for us paid by governments, different organizations, and different governments to do the paper, and they only gave us what they wanted us to see. And fortunately, we had a very nice report on the property of the GANs from the nuclear center in the past few weeks, which confirms our own finding and other research papers we've done on GANs. The behavior of the GANs as a, what they call it, nuclear absorber of gamma rays has been confirmed fully independently, and systems to commercialize it to be used in Fukushima is already underway, and it will be announced by the Japanese companies and not by us. We transfer the technology to them.
Mr. Keshe, was wondering if people can possibly help in that regard in terms of testing. If there's someone listening that may be working in a university or has access to some of the high-tech gear for testing materials, would you be willing to allow some of those materials to be tested, let's say?
Of course. We are flying, we don't tell everything we do, but at the moment, every week, every month, I'm sending materials all over the world to different institutes and organizations. The GANs material for tritium was tested in Fukushima by the Japanese authorities, by the Japanese government officials, about 4 weeks ago. we flew materials in for them. The material was tested in 2 different countries by nuclear centers, and I have received one of the reports confirming the correctness of it. They've done a full Raman spectroscopy on all the ganses. I will receive the full data, and with the permission of the organizations and government in the coming weeks after the summer holidays, we will release this data. The nuclear center first of all did analysis on the material which we send them. They had the copper oxide and they had a CO2, and both confirmed to be correct. And they are copper oxide and they are CO2. And in part of the CO2 we see CO3 with calcium, where the calcium comes from the water which we used. We could explain it because it's in clusters, it's a matter, it's not in a gaseous state. So we have a full analysis on these materials done independently by a governmental nuclear center. The other materials to be tested is under negotiation because these testing costs tens of thousands of euros. It's not cheap. And there is a new test will be done in the coming weeks again, in hopefully next 2-3 weeks in Fukushima. We come to understanding and agreement with it. We have access to materials from Fukushima, not directly through Keshe Foundation and the Japanese government and the organization which has been set between to do the job. And then we'll get more analysis from that situation sooner or later. There is a point that the situation with Fukushima has allowed the foundation to be recognized internationally by a number of countries who are involved in these things in our development of the process of nuclear work and plasma production. This is very important for us that we have managed to pass the knowledge without any patents, without any cover to international organizations. Part of this process now is that within coming weeks there was a small problem which is delayed by a few days, but in the coming weeks we will be directly involved in production of units for decontamination of the materials or land soil in Japan. The negotiations are in a very smooth way going ahead. So we will receive more analysis because now they have to analyze what is in the soil and what is in the air and how much of it we clean up as we go ahead and we change. And I've had a discussion with a Japanese organization which is appointed by the Japanese government to work with Keshe Foundation. So we got to see how fast they are working. The beauty with this situation with Fukushima for us is that I said to them, and they laughed at it, we don't understand the culture of the Japan in so many ways as we don't live there. But they were trying to explain to me that Fukushima has unified the nation very much like trying to save the nation as we know the problem. It's become like a kamikaze situation. People are doing things just to help the nation, doesn't matter what happened to them individually. And they see it as a national responsibility to find a solution for the nation. And this has surprised me extremely in how these people become, they have no boundaries in how they can help. And we have seen things which have surprised us, it surprised Western governments which we work with, the things the way they are happening in respect to Japan and Fukushima in connection with Keshe Foundation. We don't disclose it, but we are dealing with a wonderful nation which is trying to save itself from a disaster, and they have seen part of our work as maybe a possible solution to part of the problem. And in this event, it has allowed a lot of things to come to light and become rapidly commercialized. You will see a lot of commercialization of the Keshe Foundation technology in Japan within the next 60 days. Within the next 2 or 3 months, you will see a huge development on different aspects of the Keshe Foundation in Japan. This is how closely we are working. Doesn't matter what happened to us. Japanese they have seen the work, they have seen the materials. I think there's a huge problem now. A large part of the national assets is spent on fuel, buying fuel as the nuclear reactors have come down. So the alternative for rapid commercialization to replace the energy production has become the Keshe Foundation systems. We are working very, very closely. The materials for production of the first systems has already been transferred to Tokyo. What we were expecting to produce here in Italy as the first systems will be commercialized, will be fully developed by the companies who are totally involved in these kinds of jobs and appointed by the Japanese nation and government. So this is a change which we will see very quickly. And because we see this change, we have agreed with them that whatever they learn, whatever they develop, as we have given to them freely, it will be back to the foundation for us to have that to share with the rest of the world. And as they said, this is a very strange way to do business. And we don't even know how to do it, but we have to find a new structure. This is the problem for the Japanese at this moment. And we are talking to 2 different groups in Japan in this respect, and none of them knows the other side. You will see, hopefully, if the Japanese go very rapidly, a new Keshe Foundation energy systems totally for Japan. I requested from the parties that please has to stay for Japan and do not become another export country for the technology. So we will see energy panels and power generators done by the Japanese much faster than the rest, because they have a need for it, and they have appointed companies which are in this business. It's not somebody who's going to find somebody. The Japanese, I have given them all the technical details how to do it. They're going to run the first units in the coming days, and then they will go for the commercialization, and then we hopefully go for systems that which can clean up the land through the same kind of organizations. But these things, is a lot of political things behind it. We have to wait and see. So the information will come from them than us paying huge sums to get it here. A lot of things done. There is something very interesting. A lot of you have maybe a lot of people don't understand. Over past years with the foundation, we have found out people come and go, and they come for different reasons, and they go for different reasons. But the reasons they come to us and the reasons they go away brings us a lot of gifts. Doesn't matter how short they stayed and how long they stayed. They bring the foundation little what I call kadochas, the little gifts, which we pass on to humanity and to all the knowledge seekers, and in the future to the rest of human race. One of these situations was coming of a beautiful woman called Yokoko. She came here totally for different reasons, and she stayed with us for fairly short term. and she left for different reasons, but she's still with us in so many ways. And with her, she brought the gift of Fukushima, and this gift, I thank her and thank her soul for what she brought us. A lot of people made a lot of criticism about what she did. Uh, as I said, you have to understand the culture of the Japanese culture. She's devoted to find a solution for her nation, and a lot of people talked a lot of rubbish that you send a woman there. She went on her own. It was financed by Japanese. They did everything themselves because they want to save their nation, and everybody thought that that was it. But a lot of officials in Japan watched what she did. A lot of scientists watched, monitored what she did in Japan. And through her work, a lot of people in Japanese structure of nuclear industry looked at there is another solution. There could be a possible solution. And that 3 days of her work in Japan, as we saw it live, has brought a collaboration between the Keshe Foundation and the Japanese government. It's not that they came out of nowhere. This is thanks to her for what she came and what she brought. And she left us. We haven't heard from her, but I wish her all the best in her life wherever she is. She's done a huge service to her nation. But those 3 days and the data, which is now confirmed by independent nuclear centers, has opened the door for advancement of the technology in nuclear center section of the technology in Japan. And now we are collaborating very directly, but as you know, Japanese are a very, very proud nation. The government would not allow, like let's say Keshe Foundation, to go in Fukushima and start working to do different developments through their way. As you know, if you know the structure of the Japanese economical situation, through the trading houses, which we've known for years, we have had a collaboration with them I've had a personal collaboration with them since the early 1980s. We have reestablished the line, and the other people who have been with us through the Japanese organizations. Now the solution will be offered to the Japanese nation as a Japanese collaboration. That's why we will not be there. Yes, I can see it. But the situation now is, as she came and she brought us the gift, now the knowledge and the gift are back to, what you call it, back to Japan in a very, very strong way. And this is, as I said, people who come to us for a short time or they come for a long time, everyone is, as I always say, these are gifts. Even people try to themselves, they think they can do damage, they do us good. And in so many ways, I always say, because we work on the basis of as a gift and we give what we have, even the people who come to steal from us or damage us or cause problem, through their own way, it turns out to be the benefit of the foundation and mankind. I have suffered a lot in the hand of the Belgium authorities and the structure, but I always say to my family, thanks to the damage they did to them, they thought they are damaging to stop us to get all the technology to themselves. They allowed me, and in being literally in exile and prison in Belgium for 9 years, not allowing the technology to be released, they gave me the time to write and develop. Without all this reverse positions which they created us, like Mr. Hans Brackenier, and pressures by the police to be killed 2 or 3 times, and the pressures from the House of the King, being locked in Belgium, it allowed me to write and do more research. And in a way, I bless their soul. Their soul knew what they were doing, but physically they did the thing to them was the right things for them, which was wrong thing for us. But at the end of the day, the books you receive, the papers which is written, the research which we have released, which comes from 9 years of staying in Belgium, most of it would have never been done. Belgium has brought us huge gifts, even though it's good for the humanity, but we lived a very rough time. But one of the most beautiful gifts with it is, as they try to block us and not do it, a gift is what I call Declan Lessons, who managed to translate everything into pictures, and he actually was the guy who encouraged me to start writing, put the information down that people in the future can use. And this is what we've seen every time we've been trying to be stopped. Even by the people who tried to stop us, they helped the foundation to go further. So we've seen now the work of it now with what they call it, with Fukushima. The process has to be a national movement and not just for a few people, or as what they call it, as Yukoko is trying to do for a few children. We got to help the whole lot. The contamination in Japan does not go for a few children which can come out of Japan to be here for a few weeks or around the world for a few weeks and go back. I hope it can be helped. I know they can be helped. But now the process goes back into Japan to help the Japanese. But this process of contamination does not end up with Japan. The contamination is in the North China, it's in North America, and the consequences are unknown. We do not know. But now that we are in the process of, we got into the next step process of development, this development can help with other possibilities with the rest of the world, with the works which is getting done. There are a lot of people who work around the foundation, but you never see them. We never mention them. But we have to go through this process. It's part of the development. There's a lot of somebody I was speaking to this week, and they say people speak to them with envy that they can work. There should be no envy. We cannot teach everyone, and nobody is higher than another. We choose people here for the purpose they are born for. And if they think is for because they don't see it to be their benefit, or they're not getting what they're here for, and they leave, it means they have spent their time and they've served the service and their time here. There should be no envy, and there should be nobody is higher than anybody else because we teach somebody individually, or we teach certain people certain ways. It's the talent which has to come, and it's the knowledge which comes through the soul. When the people came here as knowledge seekers, we start seeing different applications with different people, and the people who could not do things, or they served their way for a time they were here. That was the reason they were here. It means their time is not to be here. They've done their job. Doesn't matter if what they write or what they do in the past or in the future about the foundation, or what we do in the foundation, because the foundation is you. You damage the foundation, you do us better, because more people understand how narrow-minded the people are, because they always look at their own self-interest and what happened to them, but not as a totality. So people will come and go, we teach and we go. Every one of us has a shorter span of life. We do what we can. People who come here to be taught, for example, to only one subject because it's their specialty, and they don't get it and somebody else gets it, it means that I see in them a different beauty, but they don't see themselves. Till they realize it themselves, is for them to find out. And so nobody is higher than anybody else, and we've shown this here in the foundation. The core of the foundation now, as a knowledge seekers, has become 3 people, 4 people, and the 3 and 4, literally, if you look at it, are doing the job that research centers do over, God knows, maybe 200-300 people. The amount of the research done here, it is very, very much without the boundary. The way we share knowledge with you lot, every day, every pictures, everything which is put in there. It's strange that people say you don't have, I saw comments around the internet shown to me in past few days. If you expect that the knowledge to be outside the foundation or outside one country, set up your Keshe Foundation in your country, set up, build 4 or 5 or 6 reactors or 10 reactors, and pay for people to be there to do it. You expect everything to be done from the foundation from outside, and they say why the foundation is in Italy or in somewhere else. You make a foundation, finance your own foundation in your own countries. At the moment, we're in Belgium. The center was in Belgium. Now we come in Italy. What happened to the Belgium scientists? There is 1 or 2 reactors which is running in East Flanders, in West Flanders. Make funding and make your own centers, make your own reactors and research. I think the time has come that the foundation to come from these individual people to groups in the nations to support your own research centers. Because you were waiting to see what happens. Now you see how we done it here. So you do it yourselves.
Mr. Keshe, there's a question from Mark along those lines. He's asking, why are we dividing the world by country borders by this reactor for Italy only or for Japan only?
No.
Instead of making initial open design for all and extending it in different parts of the world and share those extensions.
I think we've done this. I think the knowledge seekers have done this.
I think we've been doing that in the last 30 or so workshops.
The way we share knowledge, I think even people who... I was told by a couple of scientists in Italy recently, do you know you're throwing away millions and billions of dollars with the knowledge you're spreading like this on the internet? And you look for finances? I said, because it's not mine. If people pay us, donate to us, we accept it. We have no boundaries. This is stupid. Which says those national boundaries. We said each country will develop its own system for its own nation. Because of your own short-sightedness, and you cannot put people in your area together, it doesn't matter country, language barrier, or whatever, you're blaming the foundation why it's only in Italy or one is only in Belgium or somewhere else. There's a Keshe Foundation set up in Bulgaria. Bulgarians have to build up their own reactors and work. Initiate. This is what came out in one of the recent things I saw on the internet. I was shown by somebody, and I think Rick has answered it. If every person does €1, all the Keshe Foundation supporters put €1 a term, and if you've got 10,000, that's 10,000 euro a quarter to build your own reactors, your own center. You don't need to be. You link to us, you give us information, and we give you information. All the individuals who are in Spanish, in Portuguese, in Japanese, or in Chinese Keshe Foundation, start building your own centers. We are not what do you call it, institute which is closed doors and we talk secrets. The reactor gets built in the morning. By nighttime, I see the pictures are on the internet. No institute has done this. No organization ever in the world has done what we done. Openness of the technology. You have created the boundaries by your own work, not by us. The Chinese have such a powerful Keshe Foundation in China. All the books are translated and getting printed in China. 10,000, 20,000 plus followers, or millions of followers around the world of the foundation. Get together and build your own centers from now on. We give you the knowledge what we have. Now you've seen it is getting processed to make your own solar cells. Keshe Foundations, one of the first things you can do is start building to generate funds for the foundation of your own nation or your own language, whatever. Start building the first solar cells. The first solar cells should be able to be built now by everyone. You have the materials, we taught how to do it. The Italians by next end of the holidays will produce the first one. We hopefully be able to show it by next week. I was hoping that they're back on holiday this week, next week. The Japanese will do theirs. In Canada, you have enough knowledge. In America, you have enough knowledge. You have your people who are here and there and you can do it. You're waiting to be fed. You're like little chicks who are waiting for, you know, you see these, we always sit in the park, in the park, we see these, what do you call it, sparrows. The baby sparrow is as big as the mother, but it still flicks its wings waiting for the mother to feed it. Because it's got to use to be fed. Even though it can fly itself and it can pick its own food. As time you've seen how it's done, you blamed us, you don't teach everything. For years they wanted to do Keshe Liquid. We've shown that. You don't have gases, you can't have the access to gases. Very simple. Now we're doing tests with the GaNs. Open couple of, spend $1, €1, buy yourself a caustic, coat a few pieces of wires. I'm sure you can find a few Coca-Cola bottles around, or a few buckets, or a few tubs, or whatever. Create your own GaNs. And I'm sure you can go to any place, any of you, even you have children at home, use their toys, coat them, and put the GaNs in there, and just put a little motor to it, and you can start your own system. How much does it cost? $10? You don't need to have sophisticated system.
Not
like
even if you're using. There's lots of
Pardon?
toys and everything else that have motors and everything in them, so
yeah.
we don't even need to
Now,
buy anything really. It's all around us in terms of the junk, quote unquote, that we see laying on the street.
More or less, that's why the very first reactor we built here with the first GaN system we built here was in half bottles. I did that deliberately to show the simplicity can be done anywhere. You were looking for the vacuum pumps, you were looking for gases, whatever. You have a shortcut. We do the testing here. We showed you, you've seen the pictures. If that is too much.
So on that line, Mr. Keshe.
No. Well, let me finish
something. Is this what you were talking about for?
Let me finish something. Even if producing the GaNs is too far for you, you can produce energy from the first things you did. When you put those copper wires and they got coated, if you connect these copper wires in a small sections of 10 or 15 centimeters, one back to back, but you have to, what do you call it? You have to sandpaper one end that you get to the copper, and you connect enough of them, you can generate enough energy to light your own home with less than what, 50 cents. Armin and Marco and Ivan were testing this on the table just the day before they leave. This is what I do with the torch. You've seen the torch we show. The magic, there is no magic in the torch. You're waiting for the Canadians, or what they call it, the Italians or the Japanese to make it. You already have everything to be energy self-sufficient, but you look for kilowatts. The time of Tesla is finished. Go back to Edison. Go back to DC. Tesla, with his brilliant mind, the way what is given us on the AC, was when we did not understand the structure of the universe. Now we understand the structure of the universe. Now we understand the working of the universe. Now we can replicate the systems. And everything in the universe works on DC. The problem Edison had, and he lost the game to Tesla, was because of the transmission of the power. He needed what they call boosters every few kilometers. Now these materials are superconductors. You don't need any boosting. And secondly, they are absorbers of the energy. We've seen how one of our patents, as I said last time, has been announced in Farnborough, that they have discovered a low temperature material which absorbs 99.9%. Okay, you made a copy of the Keshe Foundation patent, which is in public, and now you announce it that you have made a material which we already shown as a black dark material. What does this mean, this black material? What does it absorb? Absorbs 99% of the light spectrum. Okay, a question mark. What is absorbed? What is it? It's energy. Energy cannot be absorbed and go nowhere. It has to go somewhere. Even the wires which you hold in hand and it continuously absorbs the energy to stay dark black, there is a leakage somewhere, otherwise these layers will explode. You find that leakage, you store and you tap into that energy which this layer absorbs. Now, you connect them in series, you get the different value in voltage and current. You put them in parallel, you get different value of voltage or current. You mix the series and parallel connections together, you achieve the power you need for your system. Be a one LED light, be a running of a computer, being running of a cooker, or whatever. The knowledge you have, people we've been asking for free energy, I have given it to you and it's in your hand and you don't see it. It's your fault, not mine. People who've been asking for free energy, give us free energy, you give it to the Italians and the others. You're so narrow-minded. You had it from the first day we opened the lab. This is the greed of the man who has blinded the man. The first wire you coated and you put in the bottles in the lab were your energy sources, and you never saw it. And then you're still looking for bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. When I sat with the Japanese, I said, you see the wire in between the switch and the light? 2 meters, 3 meters? Just look how many little wires are in between it. You cut these into spaces and connect them in the right way, you can light the whole house with one wire, which is lighting only one light. Because we have to change our lighting system from AC to DC. LED lights are so in hand. The test is done by Arman. Arman will set you up a system in no time. Huh? This is what is going to come up. You had your first energy system, free energy system. What you call free is not free, it's just understanding the structure of the black material. The minute you coated those wires in caustic and you let it dry, and that's the reason I tell you, when you take the wire out of the caustic the first time, put a meter on it, a voltmeter on it, is to realign the flow. That's the only way you do it. That's why you do it. You realign the flow that when you make the energy system to absorb, to tap on the energy out of them, they all go in the same direction. This is one of the problems we saw in the lab with one of the settings. The flow reverses suddenly out of nowhere because the wire has been put the wrong way. When you set up your wires to connect to each other to make your energy system, to tap it to a battery, you can put a 9-volt rechargeable battery or whatever, or big rechargeable battery if you want to do it, or to a capacitor. Always remember which way you put your voltmeter when you were setting it up. Because if you use one back to front, then you find problems sometimes. In most of the cases you don't, but in some cases you do. So you connect your wires together, put it to a rechargeable battery, you charge a battery, but the advantage with it is this material stays black all the time, day and night. So it absorbs all the energy day and night. You understand the structure which I explained to you in the past couple of workshops. You put your cell near the ground. You absorb all the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth which is coming up the Earth. More at night than the daytime because of the position of the Earth, Sun's gravitational magnetic field. So you've been begging and asking and insulting us that where is our free energy, blah, blah. You had it in your pocket from the first time you put the first wire in caustic, but you're blind to see it. Today, you're in Africa, you find a piece of wire, they send you televisions which you had to dump in your country because they didn't want it in the West. That wire connections from the plug to the end is such an energy resources for you that you can sell it to the West, send it back in material. Every 10 centimeter of nano wire has the same capability as a 2 meter. Because the balance of the layers between the nano layers will not allow any more changes or absorption. The longer you are, the less you absorb, but at the end you absorb the same as totality. So what we have found is the maximum 10 to 15 centimeter wire is the maximum you need. You make sure on one end you reach the copper layer, that there is no nano layers left to replicate the production of layers of nano layers. Connect one copper to one black. Put them in series, put them in parallel. You do 10,000 of them, 0.45 volts or 0.02 microamp per length, something in that region should be acceptable. Now, how many amps you want and how much voltage you want. You have your free energy. What you've been asking and you're shouting for has been in front of you for 6 months. But now, as I keep on saying, we are going for space technology. Development of the reactors. Development of the gas reactors. Development of the GANS reactors is all part of the higher development into lift and motion and the rest of it. No one tonight, if you understand this anywhere on this planet, should be without light or energy. And if you keep on shouting you want to help humanity, go around your house, see how much wires you have hanging around. Spend your free time making 1 unit per person and give it to your neighbors, not yourself first. Then you served your purpose as a human, and then stop blaming the foundation. Till we do the GANs, and again, still the same way. Ask John, how much does it cost to make a single pot? few cents. Coat a copper, put it inside, let us do it. You have your own lift system. You've been asking for free energy, this is your free energy. This is the torch I showed in Tuscany. This is the way the torch works. I've shown for past 3 or 4 years. I don't do magic. There is no magic. I'm a scientist. Now, you've been asking for the liquid of the Keshe Foundation. The liquid of Keshe Foundation is secret to the energy and food. I'll show you how to make food out of the same piece of wire very soon. If you're shouting, we need, there's no boundaries, speak your own language, get into your lab, you know exactly how to do it, get in your kitchen, go and buy half a kilo of caustic, and make about 200, 300, maybe 400, 1,000 units for your neighbors before you put one in your own house. Then you know what I've been doing. I teach you, I give you things, but I don't sit down to make something for myself. You think I can't make 200 LED lights and light up the whole house? You've been with me, you've been everywhere. Have you seen such a thing? So, the ones who've been insulting and thinking what it is, you know, people who talk about things who are always negative, I think they have to go and lie down and sit down till they understand what they are doing. Now, the time of negativity is finished. Now you can contribute positive into what you have. You want energy, there is enough for you to charge. You find a rechargeable battery in your house, make a setup, a 9-volt battery. What can you light up with a 9-volt battery? That's what you can do. And then teach yourself the next step and the next step and do it for your neighbors and the rest. The research for man to understand the totality will take thousands of years if we go that way. The way we are doing it, we have shortcut it by nothing. I was explaining to some scientists recently. Man used to give his knowledge in talking stories from grandfather to grandchild. And that was it. When one died, there was no more left. We learned to write on the skin of animals, and then we learned printing. And now we do the same thing, passing the knowledge through internet, but to millions of people in one go. There is no need for papers to write, but sometimes you need to do. But now you record a voice, you can put it in writing, at the bottom of it is a paper is kept, or whatever can be kept by thousands of people. So now we teach in a very simple way. You have to do the research. I have opened the doors of the new way to look at the, to look at the life on this planet. Even though this time is very short. Temporarily keeps the ones who are short-minded and narrow-minded busy. But in the long term, our plan is totally different. The whole structure is, you've been asking for free energy. Have you been coating those wires in your lab? In your kitchen? Find yourself a battery that you can store the microamps into a small battery and connect it to a LED light. Then you have the light. This is what we did in what do you call it? In Holland, in the lab with the magazine. We had no circuitry. There are the people in the lab, they tell you that there are no circuits when the motor runs. It's a direct connection. But it runs out because the nano layers on the top get a nano coating of the material, so the energy absorption reduces. So you've been asking for free energy units, you've been crying free energy, and the government have done you wrong. Majority of you should have enough light in your house by the end of the week. If you knew what you're doing, Or you're just sitting here waiting for a bigger thing. The bigger thing next time, and it needs a lot of work. People who want to be given everything, those are the people who are incompetent, so they have to stay in that position. The people who understand should develop, and as I said before, you're very fast to make one for your neighbor. I made the system, I gave it to the Italians. Italians are making the first prototype and the commercial type. The Japanese need it because the nation at the moment is spending a lot of their national asset. Where are the Americans? They've done nothing but to cause problem to block the technology. Where are the British? Where are the Africans or the South Americans? I was with the top diplomats from South America a few days ago. I just was passing, I just went to say, just to see what's the position. And the way this ambassador accepted me in his office, and the way with the respect which I received in his office, was so much that the government knows what's happening, the people know what's happening, but they didn't know how to go about it, to develop it. So we agreed that we spread the knowledge in a correct way in the scientific community in South America, that they can understand how easy they can become self-sufficient in energy. Governments at the highest level understand what we are doing, but they don't know how to handle the situation. You've been asking for free energy, you have it. You've had it for 6 months, but you were blind to see what it was there. You always looked what I show, what I might show, what I have, I don't show. But it was very interesting to see Armand, Marco, and Ivan putting a small system and a small piece of wires together on the table, and they were measuring the voltage in it. Look, the current, the voltage is in the wire, and you never did that. For 6 months, these people never actually measured the current in the wire. I showed the torch to the knowledge seekers last week, or a few weeks ago as well, to see what it's made of. Is one wire connected to another into a storage battery or a capacitor? You can produce 1 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, just by, if you have a patience to connect every single piece together. But there is something interesting. One of the scientists or inventors in Belgium, Dirk knows who he is, he did a very interesting experiment. He put the wire in the water and he showed his capacitance. I have the picture of it. Dirk has it as well. I think Dirk can, because I have a scanned copy of it. Dirk has a, what do you call it, a data copy of it. If we can ask Dirk, he can post it. If you can put these wires in a pure water with no minerals, you can increase the absorption of the energy by your wires. So you can boost it. So if you can create a vacuum environment and then fill it up with a pure distilled water, you increase your absorption by much higher, because the water will slow down and enough fields for that the nano layers can absorb. So you can build, if you can build yourself a like a 1 meter by 1 meter wires, and you can sit down and every day add a unit to it, you can create something between 3 to 5 kilowatts per panel. I've done this is what we were supposed to produce in Keshe Power Cell. There is a lot of effort in Belgium to close the Keshe Foundation Power Cell by the government. They're looking, they couldn't get me through the king, now they're going to find a way through the companies we set up in Belgium to find another way to attack us. Stupid people, you had the biggest energy system in your hand and you want to destroy it. This is a habit of people who are ignorant. We set up the Keshe Foundation Power Cell to produce these systems. Now, Belgians have to go and get it from Africans. You're so low. You're so low, you don't even understand. The knowledge, the technology was sitting in Belgium, now is in Italy, now is in the hand of the world. And I thank the Belgian authorities for pushing us out of Belgium to come to Italy to be able to find such a gorgeous, beautiful knowledge seekers. Every knowledge seeker here is a jewel. They work on their own time. They come and they don't want to leave. They put things together, and with the limited knowledge they have, and I have to watch them slowly because you have to teach them slowly for them to understand it and putting things in front of them. But they devoted their life and their time to serve. They share, they put pictures up, they teach, and language is no barrier. You're Spanish, you're Greek, you're Italian, whatever you are, when the pictures are there, the pictures speak 1,000 words. So you've been asking for a free energy system. You had the free energy system in your hand the day you put the wire in the caustic. The day I released the picture of Fukushima, how it can be solved, and I showed how you make the wires, that was the time when you had it, but you were too blind, or in a way you didn't understand the physics of it. Now go and build up the... I would like to know who's going to make the first kilowatt system in next week. It's all there.
Question from Sandor along those lines. You were talking earlier about your low budget methods to create the nanomaterials, and generally with these methods we are working with the copper and copper oxides, and sometimes with graphene. So Sandor's question is, how can we control the process to be sure we succeed in creating graphene within the nano coating? And now my question along with that would be, do we need to use graphene in the nano coating, would be the question that goes along with that.
Any material can be made into nano layer. You don't need graphene.
So there's no need for the graphene within the copper oxide.
No. The flow is plasmatic, not electronic. It's not done by electrons. The flow is plasmatic.
And sometimes you've mentioned the sp2 and sp3 layers, but that's and when you say that, that's not necessarily the graphene or carbon based. It's just a structure, right? Not the actual material.
When I speak about sp2 and sp3, is to do with conductivity. sp3 is a diamond structure, is a resistance. sp2 is conductivity. Even copper oxide has a sp3. Diamond structure or nanostructure. Because there's a small problem in my use of language, because I speak sometimes in both ways, scientific and common language. When I speak about sp3, we speak about diamond structure, which is the resistivity. When we talk about sp2, it's about conductivity. The same material, the same carbon, the same coating, the same wires. If you put two wires together, you find out the electricity, the current flow from one copper wire will never go to the other. I used to show this before. I used to put a battery, twist the coated wires together, and put a Christmas tree light at the end of it, and the Christmas tree used to flash.
Now that would be
that is
copper,
the sp3.
right? That's the copper oxide, though, right?
Copper oxide. So that's the sp3 combination of copper oxide molecule sp3. But the current which flows through the layer, it uses the sp2 formation, which is the conductivity. The same material, the same carbon, has both properties, depends where you look or where you stand in connection with it. It's very much, I explain this to children. I have to talk about this. I promise I'll talk about it. Remind me to speak about to Dava now. He's put on a video up. I have to speak about him teaching children. I was explaining this to a child. The difference between sp2 and sp3, conductivity and resistivity, is exactly like a road. If you cross the road, you have to stop because the road, car's going. You cannot drive a car across the road. Yeah, they got the pavements and everything else. That's the sp3. sp2 is the road itself, which the cars flow down it. It's the same road. In one direction you can't drive because it's only 10 meters, and the other way is 100 kilometers. It's the same road. It's the same thing with the structure of the molecule. Just because it is non-conductive and it's a sphere structure, when you go across it, when you put the wires together, that's the sp3. And sp2 is a superconductor when you go along the length of the wire. And there are no losses. There are 0 losses in a sp2 nanolayer conductivity. This has been the dream of the world of science, to find superconductors as room temperature and pressure. And this is in your hand and you don't see it.
So
if you put, let me finish. If you put these wires in a very high temperature oven and you empty the copper from the inside, you have the best nano tube ever in your life. These tubes in the future will be used for healing and connecting neurosystems, because they behave exactly the same. But those nanolayers which you make will be from amino acid nanolayers, which you can replace and position in the nerve system when it's cut. This is what we're going to teach later on in the medicine, part of the medical application. Because they are exact structure. Down through the layer, you have a superconductivity, and in the crosser layer, you have resistivity. That's why you cannot weld, solder, or connect two nanolayers together that become conducted. If this is a bit far for you to understand, get 2 wires which you have already coated, twist them together as much as you like, as many times as you like. And then connect on one end, what do you call it? You have to rub off the coating of the copper, connect one end to a battery, and connect the other end to a light. And then you see the light will come out. Which means, in a normal condition, in a wire, in a cable, 2 wires, if they touch each other like this, the battery should blow up or the lamp should blow up. But this will happen. Nothing will happen. You see the light coming on, and but there is one thing you might see, you might understand, is that these nano layers are gaps and holes. And despite a lot of people don't understand, is that the batteries which you buy as a small DC battery, 1 volt, these batteries create an AC current too. All the batteries you use, even though they sell you a 9 volt DC battery, the batteries have an AC current flow as well. That AC current flow, when it goes through the wires, you see sparks and the heating of the cable, because they create a variation in the potential. So you might see heating of your wire. That heating is not due to DC flow, it's due to the AC flow in the battery. But in the normal, as you absorb only plasma and you're not connected to a battery, you only produce DC. So it is very easy to understand this if you can follow it. So if you make wires for your systems, you can make like a battery the same length of a, let's say, A4 battery, going up and down in the same environment, to make 1 volt or 1.5 volts battery. We showed it in designs with Dirk, that we put a battery in a place as an energy supply, because you put a nano coating inside it. In the future, when we make a small dynamic reactors, which I've asked Armand to start organizing it when he comes back, because he can get the material micro motors in America. We are going down to the next dimension below, which is the next generation of the reactors you will see before Christmas, which Armand is working on, hopefully, is the 2 centimeter diameter reactors. These we need, if we can go even smaller than 2 centimeter to 1 or half a centimeter diameter cores to create plasma in them. These will be used for the medical applications. Then we release the totality of the system where, for example, 1 cup can be adjusted to different diseases. So when, for example, we open the center in end of August, that I've been told by our people yesterday in Malta, in the coming months and years, 1 system can be used by the whole family for different diseases. Because you can adjust the motors and the plasmas, the strength for that according to what is needed. This is what is now Armand hopefully will be setting up by the time he comes back. He will show you literally a star formation, which is the size of one of the present, what do you call it, ceramic cores on the floor. As you noticed, the original reactors were very big. We've gone to smaller. Now we're going to the ceramic. Now we're going to the small, because the size of the reactor is irrelevant. What it can, the field it can produce is important. And we're getting there slowly. There is something I have to mention. Is there any other question on this line?
Yes, the question that I had was that when you were in Sofia and you gave the talks in Sofia, you said that there was a way to create a vacuum without a vacuum pump. So the first thing I thought of was like water, but now that we know the GANs, that would be a vacuum without a vacuum pump, would it not?
You're nearly there. You're there. You're not far off. You're not far off. Because you create, we are doing it now in a closed box. In our closed box, we are creating a magnetic flow through the material, through the plasma. So the easiest for you is if you can create different gases and put them on a rotation, and you can create a plasma, even a gas plasma in the center. The rotation of these magnetic fields in different gases will give you the dynamic rotation of your plasma inside your core without any motors. This is how it's done in the universe.
I thought about that too. Having, well, that's what the Earth is made out of, right? It has the GANs are on the outside with the plasma on the inside.
Yeah. But now, if you can put a different type of, or the same GANs, different cores or different rotation, and you can judge the distance, the field it produces, then you can start creating a dynamic plasma or rotation of plasma without any motors inside there. It's very interesting. We were doing a test with John last week, or a couple of weeks ago. We were testing why the blue half circle reactor, which Ivan has made, creating so much field on the top and not at the bottom where we were expecting. And what John did, we started from literally next to the core and we came out. Up to a certain distance, something like 10 centimeter or so, the fields are going out of the reactor. Sorry, they are going out of the reactor. And immediately within a micro layer, they go reverse. It's a very, very simple gap. Up to that 10 centimeter, the field flow is outward. And then at the center boundary, which is the atmosphere of the reactor, it becomes different. It becomes receiver, which is very interesting. Because
but that's a natural process, isn't it? It's a natural process.
That boundary where the micro layer is between the two is a boundary of the atmosphere. This is where the magnetic and gravitational field of the system find their balance. This is the shell, this is the egg with the yolk and the white inside it. This is what we call atmosphere. Inside that line to the center of reactor is the atmosphere of the reactor. And that boundary, and this shows actually how planets work. Due to their gravitational magnetic field, they absorb fields from outside. And vice versa. Not all the systems got the gravitational magnetic field absorb what they radiate. They feel it out because the energy coming from center is more powerful. These are the stars. The continuous flow forces the fields outward. So we have seen the first formation of the first plasma around our reactor as a magnetic gravitational cell a couple of weeks ago. We measured it. I think it's about 10 centimeters. Marco can tell you. We put the detector directly next to the skin of the reactor near enough, and we move it back very, very, very slowly. At that point, it reverses. And it's the same all over the reactor, more or less, with a little variation. So that point is the boundary of the atmosphere. That's the shell of the magnetic field, the shell of the gravitational magnetic field. We've seen this in the lab. We haven't recorded, but when we come back together, if you remind us, we'll do it and we show it to you, because we have the facility here to show the creation of atmosphere around the reactors now.
But each GANS has that in itself as well.
Yes. But now when you put the mass of gases in, you find a collection of it.
But how about with, you were describing as well, if you have a copper oxide and you use the salt water and you create the copper oxide in the salt water, don't let it cover your nano-coated wires, or else it will seal that.
The sealing,
so
wait. Hold your question before you go. Let's answer everything in detail. The sealing is not a hole which gets covered. The sealing is the sealing on the level of the gravitational magnetic field, which can be absorbed by the layer, by the nano layer.
Right, because it's a absorber in itself.
It blocks, yeah. It blocks the field to reach. Here you have to move away from that position of matter into the field. It's not a hole that you fill in. It's you block the fields to be absorbed, because the GANS itself absorbs what is on its way to the layer.
Okay, so along those lines, I've tried adding the white GANS that I got with the copper, with the zinc, onto the copper coated. It was kind of interesting, but I was just trying it out in layers. In terms of the white GANS, or the CO2 GANS, would be a different gravitational magnetic field than what the copper would be, so there'd be a spectrum difference. So it wouldn't be sealed per se, right?
No, you just block certain gravitational magnetic bandwidth to reach. CO2 does not absorb all the fields which are plasmatic fields which are in that environment. It can only match its own, or nearest to it. By coating on it, it'll be very interesting if you can see the layer gap between the CO2 and the nano layer. If you can make it thin enough that you can see there's a gap.
So I took this and I put it in I put it in layers. I think I put it in 5 layers. So I put a piece of copper foil that's coated, and then some of the white GANs, and then a piece of copper foil, and I put 5 layers that way.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything yet. I just started that, but I've also just started putting it into the salt water, and it acts just like the normal copper inside there.
Yes, but if you can expand to, or you can find a microscope or whatever, observe the gap between the nano layer and the CO2. It never touches it. The only points which you will find a connection between the copper layer and the GANs is where you have minerals like calcium, which makes a connection between the two layers. But you still see that gap. The way you cannot connect or solder the two GANs to get to nano layers together, you still have that magnetic gravitational field gap. In a way, the nano layer is the sun and the CO2 is the earth. And where the gravitational magnetic field balances, because both have plasmatic gravitational magnetic fields, that gap is the strength between the two. And whatever can cross that gap will be absorbed by the nano layer. But now you limit it, you put a filter on it. By CO2 you create a filter. But interesting thing is with this is that your nano layer is superconductor, and your, what do you call it, your CO2 is a superconductor as well. You make a sandwich. It's very much like a battery. I've done these tests. Yeah, I've done these tests with Coca-Cola bottle. But instead of using that kind of thing, I've shown the bottle to the knowledge seekers. It's a 1.5 liter Coca-Cola bottle with panels sitting in the middle of it. So I have filled it in and I watched with this something like 3-4 centimeter copper plate coated. There's I think 4 of them hanging. And you watch the so much the behavior of the plasmatic magnetic field. This is something very, very interesting about what you say about even the energy absorption. When I was in SCK in Nuclear Center in Belgium, and the doctor tried to prove that the energy you see is fantasy, is fake, but he never understood the nano layers. So he put corks around it, he sealed it, he did everything with it. And still, whenever we saw energy flow through the material, because there was nothing in it in the total vacuum, he said this is all false. He never and he wrote his report on this basis because he was told to write this report on this basis. Because the reason for it being is that Mr. Hans Bracquenier, who was the internal lawyer of IMEC, did these tests on the material before they knew it was a superconductor. But they wanted to know how I produced the material. So anything which was seen, what you see now and you understand, was to them a fantasy. It was a phantom energy. So now you, as a layman, in a way, you understand more than a doctor understands in the nuclear center in Belgium, who did understand fully what was going on, but he was told to write a false report. Because Mr. Hans Bracquenier at IMEC, as an internal lawyer of IMEC, they knew the material and they wanted to see the properties done and how it's done and how I produce material. Now you see it yourself. You create a nano layer. Yeah.
Can you check for tape or magnets around yourself, please?
Why?
We're getting some crackling sounds.
Yeah, it's the thing I'm playing with.
Yes.
It's the wrapping of the what do you call it? Wrapping the holder of the headphone. No, but this is the problem. A lot of scientists, especially if you go into reports of IMEC, according to the knowledge 10 years ago when they did the first test on the nano layers on one of these nails which we gave them, the accusation on the Keshe Foundation started by Mr. Hans Brackenier because he couldn't get his hands on it because it came from, what do you call it, the previous research in the other organization which was working with the space technology we were entered with. Then they knew the material was energy absorbent, and they accused of using gamma rays and nuclear material to produce it. Now, if there is an indictment, if there is anything to do with the Keshe Foundation, that we do things, we use nuclear material, that's how they blocked us, every single one of you on this forum can attend the court and tell them it's the stupidity of the man who didn't understand, accusing of creating gamma rays to produce sp2 and sp3, that you are doing it in your home. You got to realize man ignorance has not changed from the time when they killed the first man, when he said the earth is not the center of the universe and it's not round. Now it's become bigger. There is bigger egos and better tools to accuse. What we've shown, how nanomaterials, how the universe works and the structure of the working of it, that you produce energies, has been the cause of us being accused of using nuclear material, and Keshe Foundation became a terrorist organization according to the face of Mr. Hans Brackenier. And these people, the position they have, once they write these things in governmental reports, it stays, you can't take it off. You cannot take, once you're accused to be a terrorist, doesn't matter where you go, it's on the file. So Mr. Hans Brackenier has created that file, doesn't matter where we go. But this has been in a way good for me, allowed me to create, as I said earlier, the technology, and it's been a loss to humanity. And now to you and other knowledge seekers, we are reaching there to show their ignorance. You're producing, we released the IMAC report, the freedom to release the IMAC report. It says we suspect creation of sp3. But the background report says he uses nuclear material to do it. From now on, every salt is a nuclear material, every caustic material is a nuclear material, because you are doing what I did 10 years ago. Carry on understanding the process. I think it's a good gap we received now in this 4 weeks to go into detail for you to understand more. There is something, is there any other question about this? Is there any further question?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, this is Lucian.
Good morning.
Yes, I have a very short question. Good morning. But before going into it, I'd like to bring something to your attention. Because, how to say, you have like a, like a storyteller style. So it's creating a lot of confusion. So I'm telling you this because I was feeling a little bit earlier that you were a little bit upset about other people. So I will refer strictly to what you said today. So basically, I personally did some experiments with putting in parallel the nano-coated copper wires, and they don't hold current charge. And as a general topic. But specifically, you stated today that when in the second stage of nano-coating, you put that DMM, you have to keep in mind what is the plus and minus lead from the DMM to when you want to tie them in series to know what is the correct sequence. So what I'm trying to tell you, I mean, for sure you know what you are talking about, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that from experience, when you put that DMM on the wire to discharge it, as you explained, the polarity is swinging. For example, if I have plus and minus,
from plus and minus
after that, after 2 seconds, is reverting. So how do you do the orientation?
The orientation is done, it has to be when it's wet.
Yes.
When the surface is wet, usually you can fix the orientation. When you, if you do like what I do, because the knowledge seekers can say, I've got a big not a big, but something like 70 centimeter by 30 centimeter by about 60 centimeter box. I have put cross wires on this, like a drying rope. You know when how you dry your clothing hanging, and I have a plate on the floor, a mesh plate. So what I do is I hang all my wires on these wires, like drying clothes, and when they are wet, usually you can even put your plasma, your voltmeter in the atmosphere of the, what do you call it, the container, and you see a charge flow. So you decide which way you want to go. You keep this is what I usually then most of the time works is I hold one end of the voltmeter on one, and I go to the others one by one. I don't keep on moving it. So I try to create one flow direction. But I have a problem in the thing that my wire goes back through the outside and comes back in again to the container. So now my flow is reverse. So I do it the reverse way. But, or I go back to the same wire in the same direction. You see it, every time you do it, you see the plus and minus changes. We even see the same change of plus and minus in our dynamic reactors. Suddenly the flow goes from positive to negative, and if you leave them, the monitors not on the maximum, we see the polarity changes. This happens in your dynamic reactors too. But when it's wet, I find I can achieve more, what do you call it, similar direction of flow.
So if I understand correctly, why once you leave, let's say, the minus wire of the DMM outside the box, and let's say you come with a plus wire on that rope on which you hang.
In the box, I keep one position with. I don't go with the two ends of the meter to different wires. I keep one wire as one reference, and with the other one I go along the line, whatever is on the way. And you will find out, this is what I found out a long time ago, is that if you touch the ends of your wire when they're hanging, you create halfway different flows in the wire. Check this, because sometimes you see it. So you have to be careful in how you do it. The flow goes positive, negative, you see it all the time, but you can, it's very much setting up the direction of flow in your wire when you dry it. Just when you take it out of caustic, it's not just flowing the current, but we're dictating or trying to dictate the flow of the current or the plasma flow in your layer. This is how the nervous system works.
Basically, what you are trying to say is... Just a second, please. Because we have to understand that physicality. So basically, as the wires are hanged, let's say, from the top on that rope, you have, let's say, the minus lead of the DM, let's say, somewhere in the middle of the box, not touching nothing. And the plus sign, you are touching only the tops of the wires that are hanging. And the bottom just stays above the liquid, are never touched.
Yeah, never touched.
Okay.
So this is what I found. But you got to realize another point. Go back further down the line. The coating on this copper wire is the same as your nervous system. The nervous system does not send information only to the finger to open up, but it receives if it's hot to close. So these wires work according to what the environmental energy is too. This is something you got to understand. This is a two-way communication. It's not just that one way you do it, or one way the flow will be in one way. This is superconductor, and the potential in gravitational magnetic field dictates the direction of the flow. You can make a battery and you can make a wires connected to each other, and then you say, oh, it doesn't work, the battery doesn't get charged. Go back through the wires you connected and find out where the switch is. Somewhere you have twisted too many, or you have changed, you create an environment which is slightly different, the flow changes. These are very much like a vacuum system, but the gravitational magnetic flow potential difference which creates the flow. You're dealing with two characters which are not tangible. It's not the electron flow, it's a plasmatic flow. The same wire can change polarity, depends which end the potential of the gravitational magnetic field is higher.
So how do you suggest, just a second, from a practical point of view, if I have two wires, right, that were just coated as you suggested, and I want to strip out the coating on one of them to connect with the second, how one could test what is the orientation of the plasmatic flow, as you said?
I usually, the way I done it, and most of the time works, I have a core, I have a torch, which you hardly can see any light in it, because one of the wires inside is done the wrong way. I didn't throw it away, I kept it, I show it usually as well. The way I do it is I keep track how I lay everything. I keep track which end I cut from the beginning, which way I hang it, which way I connect the, what do you call it, the current flow, when I open it, which way I lay it on the table, and which ends I connect. It's just over years I've learned this. And even that, sometimes, you know, you leave something and you forget, I make a mistake. Or when you twist them around in the like the torch I have, if you twist them around too tight with each other, you'll find somewhere there is a connection gap. You create the AC, DC in it, and there's a connection which you lose your power. So in fact, you think you got 10 lengths together, but you're only using one length or two lengths. It's the process that, what do you call it, over years I've learned, and I just follow it. I do it religiously. Even with your copper sheets from the battery, you do the same. The copper sheets from the battery, you always...
I usually just use my DMM.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that even recently when I said I did that layering of the copper and the CO2, when I put it into the buckets, I'm just using 2 buckets just to check and see what I'm observing. But when I just filled the buckets up just a little bit more, I had to reverse the polarity on my LED. And that was just from adding salt water. So it's all depending on position and the environment of what it's in.
Yes, because there is something with these cheap voltmeters. Sometimes you find, I have thrown quite a few voltmeters away. I don't understand it. Somebody with electronic mind has to explain to me how and why. Is that the AC flow, you put your voltmeter on DC, but AC flow, it looks to be very effective, or whatever it does internally, and the meter becomes useless. I don't understand how it happens. We see this in the generators.
So, Mr. Keshe, if I may suggest something,
to me how it happens.
Yes, just to give you a solution. I have on my cells an analog voltmeter, which usually is indicating, let's say, from 0.5 volts to whatever, how many cells are in series. So the analog voltmeter having a coil is the load. And after that, I have like a AC DMM that is in parallel or on each cell or on oscilloscope, and that will give the AC component. So in this way, you can do your measurements.
Teach it to Marco, he will teach me. Explain to Marco, I don't
Okay.
understand what you're talking about. But let me explain to you something which is important. What you see positive, negative in your voltmeter, we see it in the plasma reactors the same. Plasma reactors sometimes absorb energy, and sometimes they release, they become supplier of plasma. And because we have a power generator line, we have a power supply line to their motors, the voltage gets fed back into our, into our power supply, and they damage the supply. The power supply gets damaged. It uses its balance or whatever it does. And I used to take it every few months to what I call the shop for it to be correct. And the guy said, I don't understand. How do you do this? It keeps on getting damaged this way. When I was in Tehran, the Iranian electrical engineers, when they understood my problem, they made a circuit for me to stop this reverse. There's a lot of transistors on the board, so that the reversal does not come into the power generator. This reversal of polarity is not only to do with the nano coating, it happens in dynamic plasmas too. In dynamic plasmas, I have a circuit, I can stop it, and one of the meters in the lab is already damaged because of this. We have it on the side because the ammeter doesn't work properly, we don't see it properly. So change of polarity on the nanolayers on the plasma is a common thing because the nanolayer is a plasma but trapped in a solid material structure. So I have seen, we know this from earlier on. And if you get it the wrong way in your torch or in your power supply, you find out that you don't charge up. One of the best ways I found out that you can charge up irrespective of the environment is to put your, the nano layers when you make a torch in a dark place near the ground. That gives you the, the direction of flow, the way it should be to the battery. This I've learned by experience because electronic side I don't have much, interest in to follow. But the positive change of polarity is very, very normal. Even if you keep your meter one end on one point and you move it along the wire, you will see the change of polarity. Or if you hold it there for long enough, especially in Coca-Cola bottles, you will see the change of polarity. As the plasma in the Coca-Cola bottle flows in one direction or another, you'll find out your meter changes from positive to negative. You see that much clearer in the Coca-Cola bottle test. Any other question?
It also depends on the position, because in my half spheres, those aluminum half spheres that I quoted a while back, I noticed that if I was on a horizontal to the Earth, then it was a different polarity than vertical.
Yes, in so many ways, because you're dealing now with a dynamic situation. You have created a miniature Earth. And each one has to find north and south of the neighborhood to be where it is. The change of the polarity of the Earth is not entirely on its own. Partially, in a small side, is affected by the other planets in the environment of the solar system.
I found that I could change the polarity by moving my hand closer and further away from the container that the nanomaterials were in. So even the proximity of my body close to the box, to the container, was changing. I could voluntarily change the polarity according to how close my hand was, very exactly.
Or
yeah,
increase
it's
and
exactly
decrease
what I
the fuel.
said. Yeah, this is exactly what John was doing with the blue reactor. In a certain position, always that's the field strength in that point, and you can find layers of it. When you put your nanomaterials in a box and you close the box for, let's say, a couple of hours or whatever, when you're hanging them to dry, then go with the same what do you call it, with the same meter, without touching any material. Start measuring the environment of the plasma inside your core. You will see very much, and go between the nano layers which are hanging. You will learn a lot. I spend a lot of time looking at this. In an open environment, you have these changes, but in the nano layers is much higher. Even if you take 2 voltmeters, hold it between your hand or with your fingers, and in the environment you see the changes. But once you go between the layers, you see how it changes. You create different environments.
Just to make your life easier, if you use 4 diodes in a grid schematic, the polarity change won't matter because it's gonna go one way or the other on the 4 diodes. And if you have AC, it's gonna be straight and in DC, so won't damage anything.
Can you post the drawing for us on the forum
Oh
somewhere?
yeah, right away.
Then you
Yeah.
can teach the others can do it. Just post it and send it to us, and knowledge seekers will put it on. As I said, electronic and electricals, I'm a zero knowledge, even though I try to understand it. So these are the things which people around us provide us. The Italian electrical guy made like a resistor and a connection to overcome the damage of the polarity flow in the power supply we have.
For some reasons, they call it diode bridge.
Ah, okay. Okay, any other questions? We can go in depth.
I just wanted to confirm that the carbon or graphene is not really used or necessary in the current technology with the nanocoatings for reactors in particular.
We don't have a graphene. We have a copper coated it's a copper oxide nanomaterial. Well, in the process, according to as I keep on repeating this before, according to the data from SCK, Belgium Nuclear Center, there could be up to 8% of carbon atoms trapped in the structure while you're making it like in a Coca-Cola bottle. But in a total caustic, we have no measurement how much carbon is there, but that carbon is irrelevant because you're creating hundreds of thousands of nanolayers on top of each other. So that 8% is irrelevant where it's placed, if there is any. There is something which you...
Is there any particular material that could be a final nano layer on top of the nano layers to protect or isolate them from their environment? You know, to keep them active. You keep the nano layers the way they are without any protection as such. Wasn't orange oil or something like lemon oil or orange oil? What was the purpose of that with the sealing concept?
I don't use... No, the orange oil and lemon oil is for penetration in the matter. They use it in the washing powders because the molecular structure is very fine, so it goes through the fibers. We have tried everything to destroy the what do you call it, the nano layer, but it cannot be done.
Didn't Gert use a process to stop the nano layering process and to I thought to create a protective layer on top or something. I thought he used an orange oil.
I haven't heard that. It's new to me, or I've become
I'm
too
sorry.
old. If Kurt is there, he can tell us.
Perhaps I'm totally wrong on that.
No, because the nano layers, if you can stop the absorption of the field to it, is by physically putting a physical matter on it, I presume.
Well, for example, they'll use graphene with what's called a diamond-like coating. Well, they'll put one atomic layer of carbon on top of, say, an iron or steel surface, and that is enough to prevent that steel surface from oxidizing, which is unheard of in years past. But yet this one single layer is impenetrable to the oxidation for that particular material when they do that process.
Yes, because you create a MAGRAF, or magnetic gravitational field, which literally sits next to the atomic structure, which itself is a MAGRAF. So there is no space for oxygen to get into it. This is very much the inner layer of the skin.
So that's not required in the reactors. There's no issues with air or oxygen getting into the nano layers, or is it a problem? The reactors are closed for one thing.
This is what actually we are doing in the ceramic reactors now. We have a nano layer coated. We have put water and GaNs in it. So we have everything, matter, plasma, nano layer, all in one confinement. The interesting point which we have seen in the nano coated layers is that they confine the plasma. And this is very interesting how they confine it, and in what would I call magnetic gravitational bandwidth they confine it. I think what looks to be more prevalent for production of these plasmas through gases it will be mainly center pin system than coating the whole or covering the whole lot. In the systems we initially set, we used pieces of copper from different batteries. In the new system which Arman is setting up for the new half circles, the plates are ready now to go in when they come back. Arman has brought a sheet with him, which is, we could not get it here before. And we have one sheet, so we don't have different gaps and layers between glued pieces. So we should see a more effective system in the coming weeks with the homogeneous one layering. But would this give us continuous flow? We don't know. We have to see when we start testing. It says, actually, nano layers are the protective layers. Nano layers are creating their own atmosphere. It's like the Earth atmosphere. They don't let anything to come close. Good morning, Arman. I see you back. So it's you create an atmosphere at that layer, and that's why they look like protective, but they're actually a shield, a magnetic gravitational shield, for which sit next to each other, that they create that view of being a protective layer, but it's actually a magnetic field entity. It's not a matter entity.
So if the diamond-like coating is a nano layer in itself, it would not allow the metal or the surface to be able to be extracted to make that oxidization. Can I see it
That's
that
very
way as
much
well?
so.
Because it's,
Very.
yeah.
I tell you something very interesting. Very, very interesting point. Maybe you are scientists and people who have the tools will see what we see. If you put the nano layer under a microscope and at the interface of another nano layer, or where the interface of its field and its environment, you will see a very nice bright white light at the point of interface. So even though the nanomaterials look black to us, if you look through the cross-section at a point of interface of their fields and the environmental field, you will see a very, very nice bright light. A sheet, a line of bright light. If you have what they call these aura detectors, and you can put it over it as a cross, put it as a thin layer and just do it, you will see a line on both sides of your copper oxide sheet, or around your wire you see a halo. You will see a bright light all the way around it. Very, very fine. It's at that interface. A very faint, fine, bright light will be created. So in fact you have what you call a daylight along your tube. You have a little fluorescent light along your tube, along your wire. If you have this, do an aura test and then you will see. We had some people here who have the aura machine. I asked them if they can do such a test. You will see a direct interaction of the gravitational magnetic field of the nano layer with the environment. This is what we've been calling. This is what we're calling the bright light in the sky. You have this bright light in a very, very subtle way around your wire.
Just a quick question. What kind of magnification you're talking about?
Go and have a look. You got a machine, you tell us. We're going to release this, what they call it, this aura very soon, that you can see it. The same thing happens with our reactors.
I have lots of macro pictures on YouTube, and nowhere there I see light.
Go deep enough, you will see. You got to expand it. It's very, very, very fine. It's the interaction of the fields.
The photoluminescent qualities of especially copper and other nanoparticles are pretty well known. So, but it is, like you say, it's on a subtle realm. It's not normally easily visible, except under certain conditions, maybe. Perhaps under vacuum and under some other conditions.
We are setting up with one organization to show this. When it's done, we release it. It's just a picture. It's very, very fine. It's a very fine line. It's very, very narrow. You will see it. You will see very, very interesting point.
20, 40 times magnification will do it?
I don't know. You will see it. I've asked the people who understand this work to do it because they have the machines. They're from Germany, so when they do it, when they bring it for us, we'll see it. Any other question?
Yes, I would like to clarify one more issue that I think is very important. So we all understood that, for example, the atomic elements, for example, copper, in the GaNs state are some sort of sphere, which some people are saying zero valence atoms. Anyway, is like an atomic state. But when we have the CO2 GaNs, my question will be, how to say, the structure is still a molecule, I mean a carbon atom with two oxygen that are, I don't know, 120 degrees angle, as the chemistry is saying. Maybe the distance between the oxygen atoms and the carbon are lowered to balance the field, or they just mixed, the protons together and they make a larger, how to say, ball. And there are not any more individual atoms, which I don't think that is happening because, as you said on the spectroscopy, it's still absorbing at the CO2 frequency.
This is exactly what is happening. This is exactly what is happening. This is what I call the schizophrenic mind. Yes, you see, let me explain to you something slightly different, if it's easier to understand. The same way as I explain with the reactor with John, that at a certain point we see positive to negative. Let's go the inside towards the core from the point of balance. Every position from the point of balance where it changes to negative, positive in respect to its environment has a different value. 9 centimeter, 8 centimeter, 7 centimeter. It's the same core. 9 centimeter is CO2. 7 centimeter, let's say, is carbon only, or oxygen only. So within the same plasma, according to its gravitational magnetic field, the same plasma holds the property of all the elements. Depends in what the environment has accepted to be. You don't get, in so many ways, different plasmas of hydrogen, 2 plasmas of hydrogen and 2 plasmas of oxygen and 1 plasma of a carbon sitting next to each other. And then they become together and then they rotate. This is the structure that you are used to in the present physics and chemistry. This all interact as one, and you go internally according to what it is and what field has been absorbed. You don't cross energy of an oxygen across the stomach and an energy of a carbon. The energy of totality crosses and then it becomes oxygen, CO2, whatever it is, or calcium in your lymph as a package. You've seen it with the GaNs of CO2.
Just a second, Mr. Keshe, because this is confusing. So we are speaking about strictly what you are calling today chemistry. So once the CO2 is attracted through the water and is falling down as CO2 GaNs, that means
it's one
boundary.
entity. It's one entity.
Right, so all the protons and neutrons are mixing and makes one entity, right?
The plasma. You change into the plasma condition, not individual entity condition. This is the change between the matter and the GaNs, yeah. So it's a total...
But the entities we are calling protons and the neutrons, they are staying there, or they're, how to say, dissolving and they're putting the energy together?
All one is the energy, gravitational magnetic field energy of them becomes one. You see, the environmental, I think is in the book number 3, I've explained this in a simple way, that a neutron, the gravitational magnetic field and the size of a neutron in this universe is not necessarily the same in other universes because of the conditions that are created in and under. the plasma of a neutron splits into the two plasma of an electron and a proton. So it's the same with your CO2. The field inside the neutron is enough to create an electron and proton, but it's one entity. In a Ganser state, neutron is a Ganser state of its own, it's a plasma of its own. In a Ganser state, CO2 becomes the same. If you split it into the matter, then you get your separate copper and separate oxygens. But when it is in a plasma state, it's one.
So they're preserving the same mass, because I'm assuming that when they go to the mass spectroscopy, that is why they're still showing as CO2.
The same. That. Yes. This is what I've explained before. I thought you understood this. That's why we see the gases or the material in the matter Raman spectroscopy of it, as the same. This is the, if you understand this point, then you understand how you can tune into different planets, different positions in the universe and get attracted and rejected from. The mass comes.
So now I have one more question, because we are still at this this subject, and that will open people to understand the medical part, which is very confusing. So if you, as people know, when you give energy to the oxygen atom, usually in the mainstream physics, the most you can just ionize, pull 1 or 2 electrons, stuff like that, and pretty much after that will come in the ground state. So the question would be, as you explained the decay into the helium and carbon, how to say, by giving it straight energy, you are not going to do that. So how to say, how can one, through a technical device, to portion the splitting to be exactly as you want, split the quantity of magnetic field of helium and the carbon? Because it looks like the mainstream people don't know how to do it. And I'm speaking about a lab device.
No. Yes. You create in the environment a balance for higher helium or for carbon. In our lungs, it's done automatically. The structure of the lung allows that release of helium from N2. Because it has created in its structure.
I understand, but we are not...
I'll teach you. In time you learn. I do that in my health sections. You learn it, you can measure it, and you can introduce it or reject it or accept it as a plasma, or pass it on to be absorbed by the body or whatever. The splitting into sets, like a carbon or oxygen or hydrogen, it can be arranged by outside parameters, and we are showing that in the GANs. As we go more developed in the GANs state, we'll show that how it's done. You can dictate what you want to absorb according to the mass you create. This is the same way as in your flight system. You create gravitational magnetic field or the mass of the position you want to go to. And everywhere in the universe, even in what you call vacuum, there's a mass for that specific position. It's like you say, I see you in the Atlantic Ocean. The ocean, the waters is the same water, but there's a specific position you can go because the mass, you call it GPS point. You can find it according to the mass in that point. And nowhere in the universe is the same, 2 similar points, unfortunately or fortunately. But this is a development which you learn in a time coming. If this, that how you can have a gas, you have molecules of what do you call it, like a O2 and an atom of a carbon How does it become a GANs? If it's very, at the moment, you are used to the position of electrons and connection of molecules, double bond and single bond, just go back to the splitting of the nitrogen, what you call neutron. You will understand, it's easier to understand, and gradually try to understand the next step. A neutron is not two pieces inside it, one is proton and one is electron. It's the same entity. And then it splits to two packages, and always splits to the same two packages. You always get an electron and a proton, because the mass of it is there. So in the CO2 is a molecular structure. You have the same in the atomic structure. One of the things which we are doing now, hopefully we can come to some sort of easy understanding with our work with Japan very soon, if it works the right way, is to use the tritium as a GANs state, because it'll be fantastic for production of material. And there is enough tritium in the waters in Japan to give us that opportunity to test this. So we are in possession of some of the material in Fukushima at the moment, and we are running tests independently in that respect. So
you are suggesting that if one can calculate the magnetic field corresponding to a specific mass, it could design such device to selective splitting entities?
Yes, yes, yes. You have to do it when you're traveling in space, huh? You want to go to the moon, you don't want to land on Earth.
We are speaking about our oxygen on our
desk.
It's
the same. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. It's no difference. It's just you want to work in milligram or kilogram. There's no difference. Gram is a gram. When you, in time, you and scientists will build the systems. In the next few years, people will fly with this, as you know, as you do with the present electronics and the computer system. It's just the scale. In the lab, we have two detectors. One is for very low, and one is for very high. But at the end, it's the same gas. It's the same, what do you call it, field measurement we look for. One is used for metals, and one is used for low energy level, like tissues and plasmas. And in the lab, knowledge seekers tell you, we try to find a corresponding value between the two, that we can understand what we are working, because we have only two detectors of the same thing. So in the coming weeks, I'm trying to get 2 more orders that we can work in the same level outside and inside. These things takes time to collect, what do you call it, calibrate and be given to us. So this is the problem. You don't have chickens and horses. They're all chickens, but you have a small chicken and a big chicken, so we got to sort it that way. The plasma of the ganses and different materials, you can decide in what you want. There is no difference between that and the position of the solar system. This is the restriction you have put on your own, what do you call it, intelligence. Open your minds and you see it. You have all the knowledge in your hand to do everything at the moment, and it puzzles me. Any other question?
So I just want to let you know I did post a couple of links in the bottom there. I just took a piece of nano-coated copper foil and just took some pictures with my do-it-yourself microscope. But I do want to make sure that everybody understands that the iPhone camera is really bad in the dark, so we can't take this as a conclusion. It was just a quick test.
I presume so. We've asked people with the high technology systems to look into it. When I receive it, you will receive it, because it's important to be able to see this. We see the interaction of the plasma with different gases, but we have to be able to do. I've asked for a couple of equipments if we can get it, very much like a night vision systems, that we can watch the reactors in operation at night or during the day to see this line. They are very costly, and we are waiting for what do you call it? Collaboration and more than donation. There is a point I wanted to raise. Is I've seen a request from Davana to start teaching the youngsters the basic from the beginning. I think, as he has suggested it, if he needs any support from the foundation, we are prepared to support you in that, to set up basic start of the basic teachings for what do you call it, for children, in a very simple way, by the small demonstrations and simple demonstrations for different ages. This is what we need. So if people would like to give a hand to Davina to set up such a thing, teaching for youngsters in a much simpler form and ways, and in a fun way, as I say, physics is fun, then I'm prepared to support this in every way we can. Even we can make the small demonstrations here to be given, to be made like lessons to it, because I know a couple of governments are looking into this to start what do you call it, teaching from the beginning, that you don't have to teach it twice at the end when they've learned, and you tell them whatever we told you up to now was wrong. You got to start learning a new way. So youngsters teaching is paramount, but we need people who can do it, and they can organize it and make it to different languages. So if what Davina explains or requests to be done, we support you, and you will tell us what you need and what we can do. And we have a guy who's very good in setting up demonstrations like this. Is called Armin. He's fantastic with these things, that the youngsters can understand very quickly, grasp the concept and the idea in a very fast way. So maybe now is time to go in and just teaching the adults to go start teaching the youngsters, because they grasp it much easier. As Elia was telling me about her daughter, how she explains things. Youngsters will follow it very much easier than the rest of us. Any other question?
I think we should probably wrap things up pretty soon here. Any other questions from the GoToMeeting folks? I don't see anything pressing on the other side of things on the live stream.
There is something
I'm looking
which
here,
I
Rick.
will. Pardon? Hello?
I think Vince just
No,
said
we can't hear you, Armin.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just looking to
Armin's
see if there's
trying
any
to say
questions in GoToMeeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but Armin's trying to talk and he can't talk. Check your microphone settings, Armin.
He's awake. It's strange. Oh, it's just about the time, 10:30.
We had one question in the chat from Brett. I think the question's been answered before already, but I'll post it anyway to you, Mr. Keshe, which is, what conditions on Earth in the past allowed for the dinosaurs and other life to grow so big?
Gravitational magnetic field strength was weaker in respect to the position in the galaxy. As I explained, let me finish this one, please. As I explained before, when the structure of the universe, we are on the wings, we are on the magnetic wings of this galaxy, and we were in a far further back position. So there was more room. So the atmosphere of the Earth, even though the same, had a bigger, what do you call it, bigger envelope to float in, a more freer envelope to float in, with a less restriction in the strength. So that allows different kind of growth. If this is a bit, if you want to see it practically and you want to observe it, you will start looking at the structure of the GANs in your system. You can pressurize the GANs and you see the same GANs changes in dimension. I'll show this later on, you can see it. It is not a vacuum condition, it's a magnetic field condition. Magnetic field and gravitational. So now as we're getting more and more into the center of the core of the galaxies, through the gravitational pull of the galaxy to the center, the environment is less compact. The atmosphere of the Earth in 26, 27 million ago, 100 million years ago, was different than the size which is today. And that allows different type of growth. And in so many ways, some remnants of the old time with the big animals still stays, mainly with the animals in the water, which were more immune than the outside atmospheric condition. We see whales still carrying heavy masses, even though the elephants are getting smaller, shorter and smaller. That environment is protected and has allowed some to exist and still carry on with the same size and dimensions as before, even though smaller. But as we move into the center, we get constrained by the other fields within the environment and in the center. The same process is happening to the planet Earth, as I explained before. We're getting pulled into the center of the sun, to the center of the solar system, which is have a heavier mass and gravitational field. This allows different height and different textures and materials to be created in different points of the universe. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's just a little bit of delay. Along those lines, are changing gravitational magnetic fields, which would cause different layers to appear on the Earth. So another way of looking at the
you have when you change into matter, you change from gravity into inertia, and that is a big difference. When you gravity and magrav is attributes of a plasma condition. When you change into the matter state, you attain inertia, which is exactly the same thing, but is within the structure of that shell. So you don't add to the mass of the totality. You still stay a cluster. Carry on.
What I'm trying to say is that like the rings of a tree, we should still be able to see the densities, let's call it, that we've been through in the galaxy and our position in the solar system.
I don't
Due to
understand.
the layers of the Earth. Well, the Earth layers.
Ah,
should
yeah,
be able to
that
tell
is
how
possible.
many. Yeah.
I think I always say to my family, if I would have become a nuclear physicist, I would have loved to become a geologist. Because if you look at the geology and structure of the planet, will show you a lot in where we've been, what we've gone through in the solar system, and partially what the galaxy has given us in our structure. The part of the absorption of the material on our planet is not due that is come from the inner core, is what we have absorbed from the space of the environment of the solar system during our travel from the outer boundary into the center core. So we can see in a way what to expect on the surface of Jupiter when we were in the position of Jupiter, because he absorbed some material which is converted into matter. This is something which is never looked into by the geologists, because they consider we always been in this position and that's it, that's where Earth is. But as I said, as this planet, we used to be in the position of, let's say, Pluto. That's where we started. And then as we get dragged into the center like a meteorite to the center, we managed to grow bigger, absorb more, and became a planet, and we became a Jupiter, and became a Saturn, and then becoming Earth and Mars and Venus and the rest of it. So geologists can tell us what we absorbed, where we were.
But that also means that is due to the fact that we're in such a dynamic system, and everything else is on the same scale, or on different scales in the same kind of way. Does that not mean that the planets could interact with each other and change positions due to that interaction?
It's happened. It will happen. We
like
change
not necessarily
position.
hitting, right?
No, it changes the position. You'll find out some of the planets which are ahead of us or behind us. They used to be behind us and ahead of us.
Yep.
Not just by collision, by the gravitational field, magnetic field forces of the outside this solar system.
Right.
It's so let's say Earth could have been in the place of Jupiter, and with one interaction has taken the position of Mars. Or it's come into the Venus position. You create a condition that one finds a balance. I show this. I've shown this on the magnets on the table, but we try to video these and show you.
But in that kind of circumstance, you're dealing with a plasma, which is a rotating magnetic field. So you're dealing with basically a huge reactor that has a lot of potential or plasmatic energies with them, and they could interact with the other planets due to that they're all made of the same thing anyway, so they're all interconnected as well. So they could have an interconnection and actually have a discharge of energy in some form or another between the two planets or between multiple planets. Do you see that as something is possible too?
It happens. It happens all the time. Earth and Jupiter are directly connected in respect to their position and the field strength. Jupiter would not be in that position if Earth was in the position it is today. We will understand this more clearly. Yeah, well, no. I think let's put it this way. You know, I've said this before. We have now gone into two-dimensional motion of the reactors. All the 8 reactors we had up to now were fixed because of the plates or the legs. The new gas reactors are on the roller base. So it means if when, I don't know if Arman or the others have put a picture out, they're on rolling, what do you call it, legs. So they feel the strength of the other reactors when they run, can change their position. In the coming months, we will hang these. So you can literally use the center core as a sun and start understanding by changing gases. Now we see changes in the numbers on the meter. Very soon we'll start seeing changes on the position of the reactors in the lab, because we'll hang these reactors. Once Arman hopefully can create the small reactors, then we we have enough small reactors connected that we can show a three-dimensional. Then you can tell us, can we see the property of a hydrogen? Then we put one reactor as a mother and one as a smaller field strength, and we'll see in what distance how they bounce, and then we can predict the next position of it. This is a development which we will come to. Then we can create a condition of four entities, we call them neutrons or protons, and 2 electrons, and see how helium behaves. Then we can replicate the condition of the Earth and the solar system. This is not far, very far. I think the way we are going before Christmas, we should have a three-dimensional reactor. Then it solves and answers a lot of things in respect to the space technology too. How do we go from one to another? How we can replicate the position of the small reactor in respect bigger reactor? My idea is if we achieve this within the next 12 months, is that if we can make a star formation in a small system, which I'm sure Arman is capable of, he's talented in that way, is that we hang these in between the bigger reactors in the cage and see how the system moves within it. Then we can understand the movement of the system between the solar systems and different planets. But let us learn to walk before we can run. At the moment we start crawling, we're crawling very nicely.
So the next question.
Yes.
The next question was to do is still with the nano layering and the plasma, but we've been all passing around videos and discussing about the a frequency or sound waves structuring the plasma. And as we are in an environment that is allowing a structure to appear with the use of sound, would that not interact with the structure of the plasma as well inside while coding or inside of a plasma reactor?
Of course. What is the sound? It's a magnetic field. Of course it does. You add, you create, when you add a sound, you bring homogeneous condition in. You bring harmony in. So the reactors and the plasmas or the ganses will all sit within the new environment. You force a condition.
And that sound can structure the plasma in whatever ways that you want to see it to a certain structure. And of course, the structure of what we're in is a certain structure. And if we want a different environment of what we want to be in, we can create a different structure.
Of course, this is
to go between.
Let me explain this. Let me explain this. If you go back to the last workshop or the workshop, or some deformities in the brain or the structure of the body. This is a heartbeat. Is this what mother
so Mr.
gives?
Cashier,
Wait,
Yes.
please.
I have very short intervention. So for a guy who is having heart disease, if you put him like a pressure source with a healthy man, that should alleviate the condition.
I don't know. It's just like the old men who marry very young girls. Boy, does it kill them. You know that. Am I there? Can you hear me?
That's a good heart condition, I think.
I think this is a
Yeah.
very
So I'll go.
this is a very fast heartbeat. This is what the muscles cannot do. Look at the totality. Look at the totality.
I'm asking
of the
because a
structure.
very serious reason. The people who had valves, metallic valves. My mother
Yeah.
has one. They are sounding like a clock, like a Swiss mechanical clock.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that this can induce diseases. So if you, for example, you put on the veins or arteries, whatever, like a little mechanical device to push the pump at the regular frequency. That means without what they call the arrhythmia and all that stuff. I was thinking if that could improve the brain circulation and improve the general situation of the patient.
I will not make a comment on this, but I'll tell you something. I know exactly what you're talking about because I lost my mother through the same problem. Through the heart. Heart valves have a certain lifespan, and when the time or the lifespan expires, the heartbeat changes. The heartbeat changes the dimensions, the interaction within the body. And sometimes you have it because of the valve failure, and in most of the time, some other cases, due to changes of the gravity in the circulation of the blood and the heartbeat magnetic field, which creates leads to cancer. And usually, you find a cancer of the stomach or liver connected to it. These are one of the things because these valves have a lifespan of so many years, being mechanical or what they call a pig valve or the new synthetic ones which are getting developed. The heartbeat, I have looked into allowing the heart valves to regenerate themselves. It is possible, but at the moment creating that creates other conditions. But yes, you can allow even the valves to repair themselves. The technology and the knowledge is there, it's just being able to do it. Hopefully with the opening of the Keshe Foundation in Malta, will become a center to be able to do the things with the collaboration and cooperation of the Maltese authorities in a larger scale as a main research center into developments of the different systems for different, diseases. I'm quite familiar in what you're talking, and one of the reasons I know exactly what it needs to be done because I had to go through this with my mother. One of the problems with the change of the valve, majority of the people who listen, who might be interested to know, we looked into this in detail. One of the reasons for the valve failure or problems with the valve is the two arteries which feed the brain through the neck. This is something which the doctors don't look at and they don't solve it. They leave it till it's more and more blocked and then they do something with it. So what happens? Your blood is pumping blood your heart is pumping blood to your brain, and you have a restriction on these two arteries which go to your by the side of your ear to your neck to create a blood flow to give the blood flow to your brain for its operation. When you restrict these veins gets restricted when you're 60, 65, what they do nowadays is that the doctors, they just make a cut by the side of your neck, take the vein out and literally scrape it like with a spoon to get this calciums or whatever, or the residuals which blocked it. And they literally, with a machine which they find the baby in the womb of the mother with the ultrasound, they go over your neck and they measure the restriction in this vein. But the biggest problem which these doctors don't understand, and they never understood, they've never been taught in the medical school, is the minute you see the obstruction, find a way to clean it or get rid of it, because as this grows, this obstruction, it puts pressure on the heart, because heart has to pressurize, create a same pressure to get more blood out to the brain. So this puts pressure on the valves and then creates a second valve stage problems. A lot of heart valves failures and replacements, especially on the valves which is the feeding line of the blood to the brain, comes from this restriction of 10 centimeter, what do you call it, blood vessels. If the doctors understand, the minute you see, you don't let this sediment to increase. You find a way to clean it, or you clean it very early, that doesn't put a pressure valve. So this restriction creates a problem for the valve failure, and the need to change the valves, and then it leads to literally when you put a heart valve, you put a life limit on the person. Because these are mechanical systems, they can fail, and if they do like a PIC valve replacement, it's got a certain 10 years average lifespan, or mechanical system fails and then creates. So those are who are the medical people understand. The minute you see restriction on the arteries to the brain, please do something with it, because the consequence of this is heart failures and valve failures. And the more operation, and people just go ahead of, but look at the structure, clean those two. We have developed a technology which allows the blood vessels to be cleaned in a very slow way, in a very, very slow pace. Because if you allow this, it gets dissolved into the blood and gets discharged through urine. Because if you release them all in one go, then you create a brain hemorrhage and all sorts of problems. Over 6 months, 12 months, you allow the body, you create a condition that the body dissolves it. We've done this in 2 or 3 occasions in our research, so the knowledge is available for the medical people who want to use it. But there is another problem with this operation, is that when they do this cleaning of the valve, they put a clip, there is somebody open their phone, the headphone, the microphone is open somewhere.
No, I think it's Armin trying to get his sound working. Armin?
No, he's still in the background. So what happens is, at the moment, in some percentage of these operations which they open to clean this artery, is that the doctors do not clean, or by mistakes the residual of the sediments or blood is left in the before the clip. So when they when they saw the artery, the vein, and then they open the clips for the blood flow to the brain, minute amount of material which is left in the vessel hits the brain and leads to some sort of paralysis or some sort of brain damage. So this process we developed can help with that, actually doing the operation and stop some of these damages. And it can be used earlier on when you do the ultrasonic testing and you see restriction on the blood vessels. The technology is available that you can start reducing it, or at least keep it to the same level, that it doesn't need or lead further on to the valve damage and the heart operations and the rest which goes with it. Any other question?
Yes, I wanted to continue with the, actually ask a question regarding the frequency as well, as we're on this subject still. With the, I found some information that says that Jupiter, the RF signal coming from Jupiter has changed over the last 30 years in such a way that they didn't, of course, believe was possible. So what could explain the change in the frequency of a planet, other than the change of the magrav of the planet itself?
Can you repeat this? I don't understand.
Sorry, the Jupiter's frequency has changed in 30 years that they've measured. So
Yeah.
what would cause the planet to change its frequency other than a magrav change inside the planet?
The materials, frequency is a matter, not a plasma. Is the matter which is on it, or detected, or produces it, or with its core. The material changes. The change in the material, I've seen it in the reactors. The change, how can I explain it that you can understand the example of it? It's very much like a lymph. A lymph is all the same and creates the same fields, but when it gets to the point, it changes to calcium, behavior of a calcium or sodium or whatever, or become part of the amino acid as a molecule. The planets in the rotation and the material content inside them can change their matter. So in one sequence, if you have, let's say, uranium, through the interaction in the core and a condition which is created, suddenly plasma increases because of the activities, everything changes to plutonium. So now you have a different frequency in the matter level. Change of matter in the center of the core is a very normal procedure. It's the same as what happens in the body of the man. There's no difference. It's the same thing as I was explaining. It's the frequency changes because they have to observe where it's been and what condition and how it has changed, to what material it has changed. Through that you can say what the center core has changed into. Each material has its own frequency in the matter level, so you can say the change of the condition internally.
But it actually might not even be with the planet. It could be to do with the structure of the moons around it and their interaction with the planet.
Yes, more or less what they have created, what they're allowed to do. We see it now in the confined space we created in the lab. We change gases in one core and we see the change in the outside the box detector. But frequencies is to do with the matter levels and what they allow. But is mainly the material inside changes quite a lot. Matters inside do not stay the same. As much as they become a plasma, they become matter too, in different matters.
Right, we've explained this before, how they change back and forth.
Yeah, and there is something interesting I was teaching very recently to some spiritual people. As you understand, we teach right across the matter to the spiritual side, to the teaching of the, what do you call it, the soul. I was asked what happens now that, okay, we are to all the souls which are been on this planet, and the souls of, if the catastrophe happens, what happens to, let's say we all disappear in one go, in all the 7 billion of us. As the man has a soul, so does the solar system, so does the planet. We add to that soul. So the soul of the man adds to the soul of the solar system, and the solar system adds to the soul, to the structure of the galaxy. Soul is not exclusively and bounded to in one condition, in one direction. So when the situation happens, you're like a molecule, atom in the structure of the molecule of amino acid in the structure of the human body. The soul of the man is connected to all of it through the interaction of these fields. So as a piece, we are one soul, but as a total soul, we make the soul of this planet. And this is the way we reach you. We don't reach you through individuals who reach through the soul of the planet. Then this planet on its structure creates a soul for the solar system. It's the same thing, independent of entity physicality. And in so many ways, the gap between the star system with galaxy system is the place of the souls. Man will understand this in a due time, in due course. But we'll explain this in more detail. I will show the soul of one of the reactors very soon in the lab. We run the reactor as an entity, but I'll show to the knowledge seekers and to the world when you're ready, the soul of the reactor. Because once you create an entity, when I tell you pray for it, it has a soul. The soul of that will show. Because this entity makes a decision itself, it shares its feelings with the others to stay in balance with its environment. So it's a decision maker. How much it gives as long as it can stay. So it has a life. There is something which is raised in the questions we raised about what's going to happen to humanity when, like, we reach the ultimate point of this planet. What's going to happen to all these beings if we whatever? I explained this very simply in a simple way that it can be understood. We have started teaching the man to find his own salvage and his way out of this planet before the ultimate point. If we manage to reach that point, then we become part of the structure of the universe, the way it is with the others. If we do not reach and we see the blocks, the way it's getting set up by the governments and other people to stop the process that they want to be with the materialistic level they are. As a lot of you speak about UFOs, as a lot of people you speak about flying saucers, and a lot of us, we know we are becoming one of the members of this space club. What have we done as human beings? I always say, look at the parallel. When the animals became instinct, or about they become instinct, we go to the jungles, we go to their environment, and we pick them and bring them and put them in the zoos. At least we have one, or we keep a DNA copies of them nowadays. So the zoos have taken the place of the jungles where we can keep the environments which we have destroyed. If we do not manage as a human race to unite, to be out together in one form and achieve it very rapidly, there are those who keep zoos or keep environments to save creatures of God, that one day they find an environment for it. In that case, all these what you call UFOs, all these things which you see flying around, each one of us, as we cannot live in their environment, each human being, most probably the world leaders will be the best examples, will be the first ones they keep, because you keep the top dog, the best lion, as you say, will become prisoners in these cages of the universal zoos till they find a place where we can live. This is not a threat, this is the eventuality, and this is a reality in the universe. As we keep zoos, that this animal died, there is so many pandas left, now we keep them in the zoos, and so many white lions, or what they call white tigers left, we keep them in the zoos that we can preserve them, and we lend them to another zoo. In the universe there are zones which the creatures are kept till a place is found for them. So my talk goes directly to the world religious leaders and the world leaders. You will be the first one in these zoos. If the humanity doesn't come together in one go and in a unified way to develop and allow man to stand the integrity of the human race, to people who are there waiting for this eventuality to save us, they're not here to damage. The world leaders will become the monkeys in the cages in the Universal Zoo. This message goes directly to all the world leaders, directly to all the world religious leaders. I hear people say that the Pope is about to release something with celestial things and whatever space. The knowledge is freely known. As much as there are visitors, there are the people who will save the human race, but then the man has to be kept in the environment of themselves. You don't put an elephant where you have the penguins with the water. In the zoo, you create an environment when the penguin can live on its own and the elephant can live on its own, and each one gets fed according to its environment. And nobody goes into the jungle of Africa and bring a one-legged, crippled, sick elephant. They take the best and they bring it. So my message goes very clearly. The world leaders will be the first animals in the Universal Zoo. So if as humanity we don't come together and we don't achieve this point very rapidly, the world leaders will be the first animals in the Universal Zoos, and they will wish they could have done something when they were there in position of power for the rest of humanity. This is not a fairy tale. I'll open the environment for you to see the zoos very soon. This is why we said we start building the cages, that you can create the environment for other things can be seen within this cage, within the labs of the institute. We don't tell you everything in one go. As we showed you the wire, and you are still looking for the free energy where you had the key in your hand, you already been there and you'll be there. World peace and world peace through religions and the governments has to be achieved in one go. And there is no use punishing no race or religion or tribe. The ones who are doing all the killing now, they will go with the planet, because that's their point to be. Killing children on the name of religion or prisoning people, the people who prison 1 million people in one corner and they bomb them to a smithereen, very soon those people will stay with the rest of the smithereen of this planet. Decision has been made and will be carried out. There'll be no sign.
What about those of us that strive for universal understanding?
We'll choose by the soul. We will not choose by the color or the physicality. Doesn't matter how white dress you wear and you call yourself whatever religious leader. We are aware of the soul and what's inside you. We are oblivious to the physicality. You can be blind. Put it this way, I was explaining to my son recently. If you are born with no legs, no arms, because we were walking on the street, the guy had no legs, physically no legs. He says, how does he live? I said, but he has a soul, and that's the whole body works for that soul. Physicality is irrelevant. The world leaders who incite wars to get more money to be more powerful, you make the best animals in the Universal Zoo, because we can show how horrible it can be. We don't mix the lions with the deers. We don't keep the savages with the tamed animals. We are making the book open very slowly but very clearly.
What of those of us who reach an understanding
let me
before that?
Your position is saved. You're not the only one. There are those, let me explain to you why. When you go to a country, when you take over a country, you always go for the leader, because this is the symbol of the nation. When you want to change a government, you change the leader of the government. When the time comes, It's the same with the world leaders, earthly world leaders. They'll make the best examples in the universal zoo. Not preservation, but to show how bad can be that they as leaders allow the rest to die, how savage they are, where they had the opportunity to create a condition. The numbers become irrelevant, but it's very nice to see how many presidents would like to be in the universal zoo, because they cannot interact, they cannot mix. The environmental condition is not there to be done. So it's better if these world leaders who want to be in the world, what they call it, Illuminatis, whatever name you want to call it, they think they control everything. Your salvage is in bringing the humanity with your powers together, that you will not be in the cage alone, but you'll be in a condition, in a community, in an environment where you are with the others. They put a lot of people in solitary confinement. They become the prisoners of their own creation. World peace, integration of the religions on this planet is needed as fast as possible. Not because we have no answer to it. It's because these world religious leaders will become the best monkeys in the cages of the universal zoos. They come and have a look and they spit on them in what they've done to their creatures, not praise them.
So the next question is, those
Yeah.
of us that have gained understanding and have, let's say in the near future, gain more understanding and create our own lift systems, let's say that, what happens in that kind of case when we know that, or they know that we are, as a species, aren't ready for that yet?
The species might not be, but those who manage to get to in that position, you are known through your soul. So you become part of the structure because you are the same. Let's put it this way: if you put all the world leaders and all the war machine making they have together, and you let them, they have the machine, they can get into space, they will not go very far, because they'll be eliminated by the knowledge that they know what they're carrying these things for. So the crafts which carry guns and battlefields and whatever you call it, what do you call it, this thingy, it's become fashionable now, part of Tesla, they are aware of, and it's been seen. So you'll be eliminated before you get there. The habit of the man has to change from killing, because we don't see the body, we see the soul of the man. And we know what is planned for. And if they're hoping that there'll be a craft will take them out, you will go not very far from this planet. Not very far from the solar system if you can get yourself out, because your intentions are known. So why should they allow you to create more mayhem when they can change you directly in the position you are? This is not the only situation. This has happened before, it'll happen again. But there is like a systematic work set for these kind of things. We don't let a few animals change the condition, the peaceful position of the universe. And as I say, when you take over a country, you take the leader. That's what they did with Saddam, as they called him, animal or Gaddafi. When the end comes for what they call in the wolf in the cloth of the lamb, they call themselves as well leaders or religious leaders, you will be begging for the same thing. But this time, your time will be very nice in place that you never know, you never exist, and you cannot be even part of. When you sit in your own zoo till they find a place for you. And usually these kind of animals will never be given the chance to exist. They allow them to go through their natural process of death and in solitary condition. Because then it's the end, we just take the soul. My call goes directly, as you know, I have no hesitation. My call goes to the Pope, to the Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran, to everyone on the title of name of religious leader. I don't address nobody, I address totality. Even with the world leaders. If the move is not made to unite man to achieve this position of being able to go as a family out, when the eventuality comes, the prisons of this world will be the world leaders. To be made example to the rest of the universe. What they've done and how they allowed their greed, allowed the rest of the race to be destroyed. And the universe, we can keep you not for your lifetime of 10 or 20 or 100 years. We can keep you for a long time to become an example. This is what I call again on the world leaders. Get together and end up with these wars and spend all this money in the war system for the development of the technology that man can be going out as one family in peace and the ethos of peace. Otherwise we know how to teach you. We teach you so well that your body will last long enough for the others to learn to be made example of. This goes directly to His Excellency President Obama, down to the Chinese president, down to the presidents in Africa. Unite in one, otherwise we unite you with yourself for a long, long time. Any other question?
How can we stop the killing and get?
Pray for the soul of the people, that by elevating their soul they understand their mistakes. You've seen it, I've done this with
That's the true thing there, is the humility of trying to pray for somebody that has done some major wrongs.
That's all you can do. Why should a child be born yesterday on the Eid in Palestine orphan, when as minute she was born the mother was dead because of a bombing? Where does this, it's a picture on the television you see, but it's a life who's got to be grown up, brought up with no mother, most probably abusive mother-in-law or somebody who takes her in to give her a chance to live, and forever she's got to know what would if I had my mother, and the hate of what Israeli who's killed my mother, so that hate carries on. Why? There is very strange, we breed the same thing as we do. If you look at the behavior of the tribe of Israel, they are not doing anything less than what Moses did. Is the behavior which is carried on to be seen as the right. You read about the life of Moses. He destroyed every man in the tribe who supported him and brought him up. So what do the Israelis do? What the Palestinians are doing? What the Jews are doing with each other? They're killing the ones who gave them life and supported them for thousands of years, just because somebody is making arms and making the others enemies. Why? Why do a government like British government has to spend so much millions of dollars 20 years ago to open the BBC World News? When they announced this, when I was in Britain, they are opening a BBC World News without any advertising, cannot be run. I said to my father, these are the new tools of war. Because now they use the media, you don't need to shoot a bullet. They create the media, the condition, the words of war, and they put 2 cameras, and then they do the revolutions and all the killings. And in less than 20 years are proven to be right. In the past, when they used to take slaves, they used to attack, and then when they attacked them, they killed them and they captured them and they slaved them to America. Now they use the media and the different world news things. There is no war, they create a war on the media and they do their own revolution to rob the nations. We take the love of God from you lot, and then you know what it is to be paid for. If we do the punishment, what happened with, as Muhammad said, blessed is his name, we took the love of God from the tribe of Israel for what they did to Christ. And we saw they spread like nothing around the world, no home. And when the love of what is given back to them and we see what they've done, they haven't learned. So there is no need to repeat the same. The same thing goes with the followers of Muhammad, bless his name. They did wrong and they received their punishment from the followers. Now that has been removed. That is called be equal. So there is no problem. You don't have time because you have a human body. We have all the time in the universe. Any other questions? Thank you very much for all your time. Thank you indeed.
Thank you for the in-depth knowledge, Mr. Keshe.
You're quite welcome. I hope the world leaders who listen to this program, we know they do, they understood and they changed the mood and the conditions. Thank you very much.
Actually, before we go, maybe John or Armin can want to say anything, as they're on different continents. I know Armin, I think, is having mic issues, but John, would you like to add anything quickly to the end of the workshop?
Well, things are going on, and we are working also. I'm working here to try to set up a system, so helping people here in this country to go further also. I hope that Africa will be there also, because I have some contact in Africa, but communication is always very hard and difficult. So things are going on, and not always as fast as we would like, but we have to do with what we have. So the light and connections of the wires is something I'm doing now, and try to manage to do that also. Small reactors, I was in the way of going further in small reactors also. I've already showed one in the Spaceship Institute. There's about a 3 centimeter core, which is there. And, well, understanding is important, but I still have some issues of comparing the different state of matter, solid, liquid, gaseous state. But anyway, I have some parts and some aspects which I understand better and better, but still have things to go further, because we have to be, in a way, understanding, but also being able to let the others to understand. And this has to be done in a way that we are going forward. But experiments that have been done shows clearly some aspects, even though it was in the science way, but the science might have not understood clearly the behinds of an experiment, but an experiment was there, and we have to look at those experiments also. So, okay, well, I'm going on and trying to do things in that way. All
my regard to you and your family, John. I know you don't stop working.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
Right.
So, well,
I think
okay, sorry. I was just adding that I haven't been listening to all, but I have listened to most of what has been said today. And, well, I'm happy to have heard all that. So thanks for all what is going on.
we can't get Armand on the line to tell us what's happening with his development, or he has had a time yet to have a rest.
He's having microphone.
We'll leave it till next week then. Perhaps we can have a special session with, or not a special session, but a special part of the workshop with Armin. He can enlighten us to his latest.
Yeah, he's the.
Or if you would like to have.
He's talented to translate the knowledge into physicality, and this is very nice. He's a great contributor into the new way of cheekiness of doing things in the institute. But it works, and he's got that heart to take it a step further. In a way, we are like 5 fingers on one hand. Each one of us does what he can to bring the hand to work in the correct way. I thank all the knowledge seekers for what they've done and what they've been here to do.
I really appreciate Armin's creations, I call them. They seems to come up with something new every week or two that's outstanding.
His tree is outside the lab. His tree is still growing.
He thinks outside the box, I guess you might say.
In so many ways. Anyway, we are here all to serve and see what we can do. Thank you for today. Thanks very much for all your time. And hopefully those who listen understand what is to come.
So the homework.
The homework is, let us see who can make more.
The homework is for everybody.
It's the homework is. Let's see what we can make for who's going to come up with more powerful system by the end of the summer, before the Japanese do.
Well, that sounds good. Almost a little power competition here, you might say, in a friendly sort of way.
Don't forget.
No major corporations allowed in the competition, though.
Oh yeah, they're already in it. They're working on it.
I guess so.
Don't forget, when you coat your wires, you have to make sure the end which is you use has to be fully robbed of any coating. It's very hard, because these coatings, if they're not robbed properly, they can redevelop. And then you find out you lose your connection. And then you see your system doesn't work. Spend a little bit more time to make sure you do a job, and then you find out you can add as many LED lights as you like to your system till the capacitor cannot answer or the battery discharges too fast for it. But make sure you don't put your wires on top of each other either, or very next to each other, because this can use the AC of the the system, or create an AC condition that it discharges your battery. So we give you every tip. We can see who can make a system. If you can make a system with 7 LED, you have enough light, and this should not take you more than if you have a copper wire in the house, about 2 meters of it should give you good lighting.
By the way,
sounds about right.
I am Shandor. If I may share something.
Yes.
I understood it's a problem to make a good connection when copper is once coated. So I did an experiment where I made the coating in a way that I bent the wires and I left half outside of the container where the coating was done. So I obtained electrodes which half is coated and half is uncoated. And maybe this would be a technical solution to avoid scraping away the coating from an already coated wire in order to make connection. Maybe this method
yes. we've done that too, but if you look at the Coca-Cola bottles, the coating grows all the way out. In time, it grows. I can show you when the knowledge seekers are here. We show you. We leave a copper nail inside the Coca-Cola bottle, and we seal it properly. We keep it out for connections, and after a while, the coating grows up. It's like a skin. It just grows both vertically and diagonally. So the best way is to destroy that first layer which leads to the creation. And if the layer creates again itself, you have to rub it up and you see the system doesn't work after a while. It means that the coating has grown. You got to find out where the coating has grown. There is a way to stop growing the layer on it. I've tried it, but sometimes it works. Is that the end layers where you don't want to coat, you dip them in the acid from the battery of the car.
That is, I've done with chlorhydric acid, diluted to 10%.
Yeah, if you use the acid from the battery, I take it out. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it can damage the layers further down.
Chlorhydric acid only. Chlorhydric acid only so dissolves the copper oxide and not the copper. So it's a weaker acid than acid from the batteries, which is sulfuric acid.
Yes, we tried all that. We tried to destroy it, but it grows back on again. Okay. It's the way. It's a strange. It's not a strange way. It's like a skin. It just grows back on. It's the process of stopping it, and if you set a system that doesn't work, and you connect all the wires and you connect to the battery doesn't get charged, it means one of the places where you did the copper removal, but the copper oxide removal, has grown back on again and it's created this insulation, so you don't get a charge. I've looked at different ways of this for years. When I find a solution, or anybody finds a solution, let us know.
Well, I'm experimenting also to make electrodeposition of copper on the top of the layers, but this will take maybe 1 to 2 weeks more to get results. I'd like to ask one question regarding to this lantern setup, or to the day and night batteries. Are you still using liquid and a coated and uncoated wire in each cell, or are you just using wires without
everything has to be coated?
Yes.
We done both in the spherical globe you've seen we use. We've done uncoated, coated with liquid and without the liquid. And we see better results on the liquid side during the night time. But it depends where you are and what the conditions are. We were doing some tests over Thursday, Friday here with others, with the scientists who were here. As I told you, we were shut down. We were doing all sorts of looking all aspects of the technology for governments. So one of them is this night and day panel. In the liquid. When we see it, because the specialists understand these things immediately, they knew what they said. 1.67% was their hope that ever can improve on the value of the solar cells that get a better efficiency. Now this gives them like 100%. You will see that the development will come now. We've gone into the hand of giants. We are not in the hand of little factories or little people anymore. The technology on the commercialized side now has gone into the hand of powerful people in the world of in the industry, because they understood it. It just hit them in the face so rapid. They could not get out of this building so fast.
That's good news.
Now the technology is understood by the most major corporations around the world, and they are going for commercialization. They are not waiting. The whole game has changed since last Thursday, we think. This is the reason we run these things, these interactions with the governments and the organizations. For them to understand, because they can make the change. They have the facilities and the finances to make the change. So we see what happens. The scientists here on Friday were much more, on Thursday, were much surprised in what is on the table and they were not aware of. I'm sure we're going to be taught different ways of doing it. I don't think you should be able to. If you do, it will not be surprising, but it'll be like you can't use electrolysis like a battery on a nano-coated material. Will not stick on. I don't think so. Unless in that process you allow some sort of calcium seems to be the right link. If you want to make a layer to attach to your nano layer, coating it, maybe dip it in calcium and then make a coating on it, because this is what happens in the bone of the man as well.
We'll try
That's
that.
maybe it's a possibility. Yeah. I think we better wrap it up for today. We've been long enough. Thank you very much for all your help. And we'll see where we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh, and thanks everybody. And
thank you, Mr. Kesh.
This call
see you
here
next
and on
Thursday.
live stream. So ends the 21st Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and yes, we'll see you next Thursday for the 22nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop.
And now we are 21, we might have matured.
I think we are out of our teenage years, at least. Finally.
Waiting to get on 31. Christ age.
Yeah, till you get 55 like me, 57 is easy to get to. All the best. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye for now.